What's going on, everybody? This is another episode of LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
What's going on? Good to be here on Thursday night, February the 21st.
You sure?
End of the month.
You sure?
I'm
You said
sure.
that kind of slow.
I'm sure, man. I'm sure, man. We,
coming close to the end of Black History Month.
yeah, man, we got about a week left. You know. Get your Black History on while you got it. We are broadcasting live on YouTube and on Twitch and on Periscope Live. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here with us. We hope we don't have any technical issues or anything like that. We do see some people strolling in.
Right.
What's up, everybody? What's going on? We have lots to talk about. And we also have some new patrons on patreon.com as well. I'll probably get to that at the end of the show because I'm going to have to find it right now. I'm going to have to find those names. But we'll definitely give those people a shout out for supporting us monetarily, man. We know how difficult that can be. A day in the life of Trump is always interesting. A day in the life of Trump is always interesting.
Is it interesting for him or interesting for his own administration?
Everybody involved.
Everybody involved.
Yeah, him, his administration, us, and especially because Donald Trump uses Twitter too. So earlier today on Twitter, Donald Trump talked about progressing forth as a nation. When you're talking about technology, he said on Twitter, "I want 5G and even 6G. Technology in the United States as soon as possible. It is far more powerful, faster, and smarter than the current standard. American companies must step up their efforts or get left behind. There is no reason that we should be lagging behind on something that is so obviously the future. I want the United States to win through competition, not by blocking out currently more advanced technologies. We must always be the leader in everything we do, especially when it comes to the very exciting world of technology. You know,
you have a problem with that? Why do you have a problem with that?
Actually, this might be one area where I'm firmly behind him. You know, we need to, because what he's talking about is, you know, the technology for wireless carriers, you know, how fast, everybody wants things fast. You know, you want things more convenient. You want your information to come, you know, just, you want it to be more accessible to you. You don't want to waste any time.
And that tweet doesn't appeal to consumers.
Yeah. But see, why I'm with him is because we know that 5G is on the way, right? We know that 5G is on the way. They've been working on that, right?
Right.
But he's saying 6G. Now, I've never heard of 6G because 6G is not an actual thing yet. I mean, it will be a thing one day. But to skip to 6G, I'm like, well, yo, how about we skip to like 20?
20G?
Yeah, man.
No, man, he's trying to be
Why
practical.
we go forward?
Because
we got to be the best.
I think that's unfair criticism, man.
You think that's unfair?
I think that's unfair, man. He's just trying to be practical and look ahead. Past
Practical.
5G. That seems
Practical.
That seems practical.
That's a strange
it
word
wouldn't
for this
It wouldn't be
situation.
practical to go to 8G and 20G, but he's trying to look ahead, man.
To skip 5G?
Why are you giving Trump so much smoke for trying to look ahead, man?
It ain't just me, man. Many people was like, what are you talking about, dude? There's no 6G, man.
Yeah. We always talk about how Trump doesn't think ahead.
Nah.
But maybe he has access to certain information that we don't. So he knows what's in the pipeline as far as technological advancement. You see what I'm saying? So he's getting us ready for it. Or he's just prompting.
That's quite the assumption.
But he's prompting companies to kind of get geared up to go to 5G, but not stop there. Look forward to 6G to make your business model better and faster and more convenient for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, maybe he's playing 6G chess. You know,
And see, what I'm saying
everybody
is,
say things like 4D chess, 5D. He's playing 6G chess.
see, what I'm saying is, forget the whole like. If you wanna be the best, be the best. Then go to 10G.
See, you're not
Go to 15G.
See,
Go to 100G.
now you're making Trump seem practical and reasonable. Don't do that.
I'm saying,
are making-
look, everybody wants their information
Well-
right at the fingertips, and they want it right now, fast, in a hurry. Let's do 100G right now.
I ain't got no problem with that tweet. I ain't got no problem with that tweet, man. Maybe it's just because, you know, he set the bar so low.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe he set the bar so low, and I'm
That
just
might
like,
be. You're giving them a pass here.
I'm definitely giving him a pass. If we're looking at,
I am not.
If we're looking at kind of the nature of his tweets, his tweet history, and what he typically tweets,
This is mild.
this is way below mild. This is below lukewarm.
Yeah.
This is room temperature Trump, and I'm okay with it.
All right. 6G. I'm expecting 6G by the end of the year. I'm expecting that by the end of the year. Because 5G, how about you make that happen by like July?
Now you just do it.
And then we can go forward from there in 6 months later. Man, look, this is the Donald Trump
no,
presidency.
man. See, now you just doing too much.
I'm doing too much.
Yes. Yes.
You.
You are doing too much.
All right, man. All right. Let's keep going. All right. On Tuesday, Senator Bernie Sanders announced his candidacy for president in 2020, looking to build on the tremendous support that he garnered in 2016 when he was running for president. So there have been many early projections about who may be the strongest candidate for 2020, the strongest Democratic candidate, of course. But let's just be real about it, okay? Let's just be real about it. Bernie Sanders is the front runner. And just for a little bit of context about why that could be the case, like evidence that suggests that he could be the front runner, well, why don't we look at fundraising? We can look at fundraising, right? So in the 24 hours since Bernie Sanders made that announcement, 24 hours later, Bernie Sanders, his campaign raised just under $6 million. Just under $6 million. I think it was about just over $5.9 million. And shortly after that period, they did eclipse the $6 million. And all in all, it was from 225, or I think it was actually over 225,000 different individuals. So, and you'll never guess what the average contribution was too. You'll never guess what it was.
How many guesses do I get?
I'm only giving you one, man. We got a clock, man. You know, I'm giving you one, man.
Is there a 2 in there?
There's a 2.
It's a 2.
There's a 2.
So 2 digits?
It's 2 digits. It's 2 digits. Yeah.
27?
I don't know how you do it sometimes.
Okay,
I don't know how you do it sometimes.
It's my clairvoyance.
$27, which very familiar to 2016, which the average contribution back then was $27 too. So this is it was a whirlwind. You know, I mean, this is definitely notable because I believe it was back in 2016. He didn't come anywhere near the amount he raised in 24 hours this go around.
Oh, okay. So what is that telling you?
It seems like, like I said, the momentum he built in 2016, it's still here, and it's even more so.
Again, we're still fairly young. Mm-hmm. If you want to just look at our experience within, the U.S. politics,
right.
I don't recall ever observing anything like that before. For someone who lost.
No.
You see what I'm saying? For someone who lost.
That's true. And again, and we said this on the last show, in comparison to somebody like Kamala Harris's campaign, who in 24 hours after her announcement, she raised $1.5 million. About $6 million is, I mean, that's absurd. That's crazy. And this, again, just goes to show you that you don't need corporate PACs to raise money to fund a campaign. You don't need it.
Message to Howard Dean.
Message to Howard Dean.
Right. But what do you think kind of keeps his popularity up, especially between election cycles?
Well, because he's still vocal. I mean, he's still vocal. He's still making noise. Medicare for All. We've talked about how he has targeted Amazon and Disney to do something about the wages there.
I was about to say, minimum wage. Yeah.
Green New Deal he's talked about. He's talked about mass incarceration.
Climate change.
Yeah, our involvement in the Yemen war. I mean, he's still vocal. He still has a significant presence.
So pretty much, he is almost, I don't know, it's almost you could say he's on like a continuous campaign.
Right. So we spoke on the last show, too, about CNN and how CNN had dealt with the news of Bernie Sanders' announcement. And it was with some shade. It was definitely with some shade. So we were wondering how they were going to treat the news of his massive haul, the $6 million in 24 hours. How are they going to treat that? How are they going to react to it? Like with frown faces and stuff like that? We don't know. It's CNN. We don't know.
You never know. Because it's hard to spin this. You see what I'm saying? Because the racks on racks.
Racks on racks on racks.
The racks on racks.
Exactly.
And the money bags that, Bernie Sanders ran off with.
Right.
Well, he ain't run off with it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He collected. It's hard to spin that, man.
Well, I don't know if they... We'll let you be the judge. We have a clip from CNN dealing with this news. We'll let you be the judge if they actually spun it or not, or at least attempted to spin it.
Making it rain, Senator Sanders is. That's the last time I'll ever say that. So this time around in 2020, he's raised $5.9 million in his first 24 hours. That's much better than he did in his first 24 hours in 2016 when he raised only $1.5 million.
Wow, look at that. That is really significant.
Turns out love is better the second time around. And not only that, but let's compare it to some other candidates that are running this time around. Kamala Harris came in with only $1.5 million in her first 24, so he's clearly doing better than that. Senator Klobuchar, she said that she came in $1 million over her first 48, clearly better than that. and clearly better than Julian Castro. According to an FEC report, his presidential committee raised $220,000 in the first 2 weeks.
I'm glad that you brought up according to, because the Bernie Sanders numbers are according to the Bernie Sanders campaign.
That's correct.
Is that reliable?
I would say so. I mean, we're going to find out. Why would you lie?
We don't find out for a while. We don't get the actual numbers from FEC
We don't,
or whatever
but
for a month or so.
traditionally these numbers are quite reliable, but we still should note where exactly it's coming from.
Who's the younger guy that was doing most of the speaking? You know his name?
I don't know his name.
But he did, he was, I liked him in this segment because he kind of pushed back against some very sly shade. What's her name?
Allison Cameroda.
Okay, well,
it was some low key shade.
It was definitely some low key shade. Yeah. She was trying to kind of, I guess, bring up questions as to the dollar amount and whether it's valid or not, and whether it's legitimate. Yeah. But
because this is from the Bernie Sanders campaign, so we don't know.
But didn't those other campaigns report the amount that they raised too?
Right.
The reporting came from Kamala Harris's campaign, the amount that she raised. Same thing with Klobuchar. Klobuchar.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Julian
Castro.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
No. And it would be so dumb. I mean, it would be like the work of somebody that does not know how to run a campaign whatsoever to actually report fake numbers. Because again, like she pointed out, we're going to get that information at some point. If they don't match up, what do you think that's going to do to your campaign? It's not going to be a good look whatsoever. So just like the guy that was pointing out all this information, revealing all this information, he's like, well, yeah, these numbers tend to be very accurate. But she couldn't help it. She couldn't help it. She couldn't help it.
I wouldn't call that a spin.
Not a spin.
I wouldn't call it a spin, but it was like a little poke.
It was somewhat.
It was like a little poke.
Yeah,
I wouldn't classify that as a spin
because she didn't try to. She didn't I guess totally reject the information.
She wasn't
like,
you're
sure?
right. Yeah. She wasn't dismissive. Yeah. She was just being purposefully obtuse.
She wants to make sure they're
she
facts.
She was being purposefully obtuse. But on a scale of 1 to 10 on their reaction, 10 being the worst and 1 being the best, I'd say about a 3. I'll give it a 3. That's good.
Damn.
It's a 3.
I thought he was going to go higher.
No, I'm saying 10 being the worst.
10 being the worst.
Yeah, 10 being the worst.
Okay,
it was like the level of vitriol or the level of denial.
Okay, I got you. Because I thought you meant 10 being the best, like the reaction. I was going to give maybe a 7 or 8. So
okay,
I'm right
so
with you.
You're right where I am.
I'm right
you're
with
basically
you.
right where I am.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm cool with that.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. What we have noticed, though, is that there is a lot of pushback on Bernie Sanders. And it's not just contained to this situation now because he has announced. It's going back before then, too, when it was, I guess, even suspected that he would announce. But now that he has, there are some figures on social media that, they got some hate to share. They want to hate on Bernie Sanders a little bit. So let's get to the first person that we have a screenshot from one of their Twitter posts. It's Amanda Marcotte. And so Amanda Marcotte is a journalist and she writes for Salon. So on Twitter, she recently stated, Bernie's fundraising isn't really a surprise. His base of support is well-off white guys who have some cash to spare and are really hyped up to box out the up-and-coming candidates. She continues, but I suspect the other, mostly female frontrunners may have a quiet advantage. The same women who put in the time and shoe leather that won the Democrats the 2018 midterms. Women may not have as much money to give, but they've been better at organizing and putting in the work.
So there's multiple suggestions here. In the first tweet, the suggestion is that not just Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders along with his supporters are, I guess, indirectly boxing out women candidates in particular.
Right.
As if they're not any male candidates that are running or put their hat in the race, right? So why is she focused on just the women candidates as if Cory Booker is not in there, as if Castro is not in there. So essentially, if you are donating to Bernie Sanders, according to her, you are boxing out women voters or just women candidates. And Bernie Sanders himself is doing that just by running. And the second tweet suggests that Bernie Sanders and his campaign are not putting in work. So basically, anybody who volunteered for Bernie Sanders, if that's you, anybody watching, anybody you know, they're not putting in any work.
What I like, well, first of all, look, it's clear that she wants to support a woman. That comes across very clear. And if that's, her objective, cool. I don't care about that. The best woman, if there's a woman in the race that you feel is the best candidate, cool. We like Marianne Williamson. We think that she's a phenomenal candidate. So I would not mind if she gets the nomination whatsoever. So she wants a woman, cool. But to sell your vision, to sell the idea that a woman is the best candidate. We don't even know what woman. She didn't say what woman. But to sell that idea that it's going to be a woman because they are the best at organizing, first of all, I don't know that that's true. If it's true, cool. But by doing this, the way that she's going about doing this is by putting down Bernie Sanders. The first tweet saying his base of support is well-off white guys. First of all, we know that to be false. There's a lot of white people that support Bernie Sanders, but clearly we have two right here that aren't white that support Bernie Sanders, and we've seen multiple other people of many diversities. It's very diversified how, his base of support. We've seen it on social media. We've seen it in public. We've seen it in different states. The notion that it's just, white guys, and then to qualify it by saying well-off white guys. What did we say right at the beginning of this? His average contribution was $27. Last cycle, 2016, his average donation was $27. So you're telling me that well-off white guys are, first of all, they're being real cheap by just spending $27. They don't want to give any more, even though they're well-off. They don't like to fund campaigns, right? And then second of all, these well-off white guys are really interested in the type of campaign that Bernie Sanders is running. The well-off is a qualifier. You wouldn't really suggest that well-off people are interested in the type of platform that Bernie Sanders has.
Okay.
Talking about the fight for 15, Medicare for all. You wouldn't really suspect that would be his base of people. It's people that would be in the middle class, the poor class. That's really where his support is. That's the base right there, not the well-off people.
Okay, so in a roundabout way, she was trying to indirectly kind of characterize Bernie in a certain way.
Oh yeah,
But very indirectly. Mm-hmm. So it was done in a very, I guess, crafty way.
Oh, it was crafty.
Very indirect and crafty. But the three things that I notice about those tweets are claims of sexism.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Claims of some catering to white males. Right?
Well-off white males.
Well-off white males and catering to the rich.
Mm-hmm. This is what Bernie Sanders is
Those
about.
are the three things that were trying to be put forth by these tweets. Now, I'm pretty sure, this journalist has looked at recent polls that show who has support from which demographic and who has the most support from each demographic. And the polls that I've seen, because we've talked about anecdotal experiences about people we engage with on a day-to-day basis. But the polls say something that matches up with that. And the candidate and the politician that is running for president, known as Bernie Sanders, has the most support from African Americans compared to the rest of the candidates, percentage-wise.
Well, she probably didn't do any research on that. So
Really?
she probably just wants to kind of, push a certain type of narrative.
You think so?
You think so?
You think so?
So as we go on, there's another woman that wanted to share. It wasn't as hard-hitting as this one. This is from actress Amber Tamblyn. So on Twitter, she said, if Bernie Sanders wins the Democratic nomination, I will do what most should have done for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. I will put my personal feelings aside and absolutely vote for him. And so should you, period. Now, again, that's not as hard-hitting, but when you really look at it, why would you have, like, feelings about Bernie Sanders? Why would you have to put your personal... What did Bernie Sanders do to you?
Yeah. Show us where Bernie Sanders hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. On the dog.
Yeah,
please show us where the boo-boo is. Like, what did he do? It's strange, man. And also, this suggests that Bernie did not do what he should have done, from her perspective.
Okay, but what are the facts?
He didn't do what he should have done in 2016 and back Hillary Clinton and try to get her elected. But the facts are that he actually did right after the convention. Actually, before the convention, he took the stage with Hillary Clinton and said, we need to do everything we can do to elect Hillary Clinton. Before the convention.
And he did that against the wishes of most of his supporters.
Yes, he did.
And a lot of people were mad about that.
Yeah, they were.
We weren't mad because we weren't dealing with it from like a sense of emotion, but we were dealing with it from a sense of logic.
Right. And then, too, right before that, you recall the DNC emails had come out.
Yeah.
And Debbie Wasserman Schultz had stepped down. So it was a lot of animosity going on during that time.
Yeah, a lot of animosity. And so we were trying to kind of point to that as a reason why Bernie Sanders supporting Hillary Clinton and calling his supporters to support Hillary Clinton seemed a little off.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Not just because of the internal rigging, but because of everything he represents and everything he brought up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As his reason for challenging the system and challenging Hillary Clinton.
But he did it anyway.
He did it anyway. So yeah, we understood the animosity that people had towards the DNC, Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Sanders because of that. But judging from that animosity and judging from what Bernie Sanders actually did in 2016, that tweet doesn't make any sense.
Right. It doesn't. So,
also, the amount of transference as far as voters from Hillary to Barack Obama was lower.
It was lower, yeah. More Bernie Sanders supporters actually voted for Hillary Clinton than former Hillary Clinton supporters voted for Obama.
Yes, sir.
And actually, even earlier in the year, I believe this was in March of 2008, as high as, I think as high as like 30% say they weren't going to vote for Obama.
So who should
they were going, it was the exact same situation that was taking place in 2016 with Bernie supporters saying that they weren't going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
So who should her advice be directed at? I'm just saying, who should her advice really be directed at?
Well, she's not going to do that. She's not gonna do that. But anyway, since we're talking about hate, some animosity, criticizing.
Yeah.
We can't do that without David Brock.
Oh, of course. Oh, you mean, the guy that Hillary Clinton hired?
Yes.
And his job was to hire a swath or an army of army of internet troll demons.
That's correct.
To go into social media places and spaces like Twitter and Facebook to make sure people had the correct information on Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
To correct the record officially on Hillary Clinton. And make sure people understood who she really was.
Yes, that's the same guy.
And also kind of throw some shade at Bernie at the same time too.
Yeah. That's the same guy you're talking about.
Same
David
guy?
Brock.
Same guy.
Oh, the same guy that told Bernie to tone it down because he was jabbing Hillary Clinton too sharply and he was gonna damage her when she went into the general against Trump.
I'm gonna do a shameless plug. I'm about to do a shameless plug here, but we did do a video on that.
We did.
And it was called "Turn Down for What."
Yeah, Turn Down.
That was one of our most popular videos.
Exactly. Yeah. Back in 2000.
Back in the day.
You know what I'm saying. But so we can't end this without talking about David Brock. So David Brock also had something to say on Twitter. He said, "Welcome to the race, Bernie Sanders. I'm looking forward to a primary focused on policy debates and defeating Trump, not on personal attacks that undermine our party to Trump's benefit." I don't know if you noticed because that was kind of quick, but what also was on this tweet was he was sharing an article, and it was actually his article. It was his op-ed he wrote on NBC News, and I didn't read the whole article. I couldn't stomach that much, but I read a little bit of it, and even the title is very interesting. The title of it is "Bernie Sanders fans can't be allowed to poison another Democratic Party with personal attacks." Bernie Sanders fans can't be allowed to poison another Democratic Party. Another Democratic primary. So I thought it was Bernie Sanders' fault, but now it's Bernie Sanders supporters' fault that poisoned the primary? They poisoned the primary. Okay, so he gets into some of the things that I guess he describes as poison. So in it, he lists 6 quotes, and these quotes are, he doesn't say it at the beginning, but at the end, he says that they were given by Trump and Bernie. Not all, but 3 were given by Trump, 3 were given by Bernie. So let me just read the 3 that were given by Bernie, okay? The first one says, "I don't think you are qualified if you get $15 million from Wall Street through your super PAC."
Yo, man. That's savage. That's savage. That's savage and harsh and uncalled for. Savage, harsh, and uncalled for. I don't know how you classify that, but that's below the belt. That's below the belt, man.
You remember that it was Bernie Sanders that started talking about the money in politics in 2015, 2016. Before that presidential race, it was scarcely talked about, money in politics and corruption. I mean, it really wasn't this big narrative. But since Bernie Sanders was in the race, it got talked about. It even got talked about in debates. So I doubt that just concerns Hillary Clinton. That would concern a lot of the Republican candidates too, who all had super PACs. But I guess that's too hard hitting. That's a personal attack. So the second quote, do I have a problem with the sitting Secretary of State and a foundation run by her husband collects many, many dollars from foreign governments which are dictatorships? Yeah, I do have a problem with that. Yeah, I do.
Why? Because that points to a conflict of interest.
You would think, yeah.
I think that's a pretty reasonable connection to make. I don't think that's like overly harsh.
That's not unreasonable because a Secretary of State has to deal with other nations, right? So if we have a Secretary of State who is connected to a foundation, an organization, who is taking in money from foreign governments.
That's just a bad look.
That is a horrible
look. That's a bad look.
But that's a personal attack. That's a personal attack. Okay. Third one. Because super predators was a racist term, and everybody knew it was a racist term.
Okay. Hillary Clinton wasn't the only one who used that term. I think that criticism was based on Hillary Clinton kind of including herself in that discussion. Yeah. But I think that should be more about Hillary Clinton explaining herself. Yeah, I think she should be allowed to explain why she used that term and the reasons behind it. It just seems as if David Brock is, I don't know, like, he's trying to present, I guess, these issues Bernie presents as being petty, but they're not.
They're not.
But that makes sense, though. You present actual serious issues as petty in order to kind of diminish the seriousness of those issues. Mm-hmm. That's the purpose of that.
And from what I did read, this was a very pro-Beto O'Rourke article. I didn't read the whole thing. I saw Beto O'Rourke's name mentioned many times. So I get the feeling that this was preemptively trying to provide cover for Beto O'Rourke, or preemptively trying to lay the path out for Beto O'Rourke. Hey, Bernie Sanders supporters, you're not going to do this a second time, man. You're not going to engage in these personal attacks and ruin this man's chances unfairly.
But it also seems like a setup, right? Kind of a setup that's kind of not been promoted by David Brock, but something that I've seen that's manifested in social media where people have gone beyond giving legitimate criticism and like are engaging in some like nonsensical takes, right? In regard to Bernie Sanders and his supporters. Like, I don't know, like right after he announced, you know how many I can't support Bernie Sanders because of his hostile supporters type BS tweets I've seen and Facebook posts. I'm just like, I understand politics gets people amped up. And, you know, there's some rudeness that goes back and forth. There's some antagonisms, but I don't think that's concentrated to one group. You know what I'm saying? That's concentrated to one side. I keep seeing all these like instructionals directed at Bernie Sanders supporters, specifically these Bernie bros.
Yeah.
In regard
Guidelines
to
of conduct.
rules of engagement.
Right.
Rules of engagement for Bernie supporters on how to engage people they disagree with, specifically Hillary Clinton holdovers and Kamala Harris supporters.
Right.
And don't mess it up for Bernie. Don't mess it up for Bernie kind of shit. And I'm just like, I don't know where this narrative came from that Bernie supporters are especially hostile and almost by omission claim that Hillary Clinton supporters in 2016 and 2017 and till now, and now Kamala Harris supporters are cordial and polite.
No.
And are not condescending at all. So I'm just, if people are going to issue these rules of engagement, instructionals, and guidelines, why is it one-sided? That's what I have a problem with. There are legitimate criticisms people can have about Bernie Sanders, but to criticize Bernie Sanders through hostile supporters, if there are, that just seems ridiculous. Because what kind of argument is that? I like his policies. I love Bernie Sanders' policies and everything he, represents. But I can't vote for him because some of his supporters were big fat meanies on social media. Like, how do you sound?
It's ridiculous. And we look, like you said, politics is, it's all about animosity because people feel pretty passionate about what they support, either what candidates they support, or what issues they support. And if you're on the other side of that, it can get pretty intense. Now, to engage in name calling and personal attacks, that's silly because the conversation is going to go nowhere, it's going to get shut down, or it's just going to implode, right? So that's not a good strategy, but it happens. It doesn't just happen with Bernie Sanders supporters. It happens with everybody's supporters. It just happens. That's where we are in politics in this country right now.
It's just weird that, a lot of these people have and had nothing to say when, Clinton surrogates like Joanne Reed were issuing their condemnation and their condescending tweets towards Bernie Sanders supporters. I mean, if you look at really who had the most, power behind them, it was Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And, it's just interesting that a lot of these people who are issuing these rules of engagement for Bernie Sanders supporters, they're always, making it a point to challenge who is in power and who is the most powerful in any situation, right? Well, in this particular situation, with Bernie Sanders running for president, going up against Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar, whatever, but specifically women, and Hillary Clinton, the last election cycle, but particularly Hillary Clinton, who was the most powerful in that situation last year? Who was the most powerful in that situation? Who had a corporate media behind them? Hillary Clinton.
But see,
so you would think that they would not punch down, because that's what they were doing when they were punching Bernie.
But see,
they were punching down.
But the problem here is that Bernie was bringing people to a significant type of awareness about Hillary Clinton, right? He was pointing out, even though, again, he didn't place the corruption, you don't want me to do this, but bam!
Dog.
He wasn't putting the corruption right on top of her. He didn't make that strong link, but he did suggest it. So that was a bad look. Everybody knew that was a bad look. When he talked about corruption, when he talked about money in politics, he's running against Hillary Clinton right now. You knew it was about Hillary Clinton. And not just Hillary Clinton, but of course she was involved too. Speaking fees, just the normal types of things that you would talk about when you're talking about corruption and money in politics and, this Wall Street money and super PACs, Citizens United, all of this. So he was really revealing something telling about the state of politics, about the state of our country that has just become acceptable. That is just acceptable. That's just the status quo. And a lot of her supporters just did not like it because what could they come back with? Like, how could you actually defend that? Oh, she's taking all these millions of dollars, but she's not corrupt. That's not gonna sell.
What?
That's not gonna sell.
What was that? Remember Barbara Streisand?
Yeah, I know.
Remember what she said?
Yeah.
Like
All the men
basically,
are doing
if all
it.
the men are doing it, why can't Hillary Clinton do it? Well, is the person she's running against doing it?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was like, that's a bad take.
We can talk about the men.
You defend her by mentioning the men that placate to corporate interests. That's a bad take.
Horrible.
All you're just saying is like she is not a politician that seeks to, cater to the needs of normal people. That's all you're saying by trying to compare her to those men who do the same
Corrupt
thing.
men. She wants to do the same thing corrupt men have done. So how does that make her better?
Think about this, man. We were talking about David Brock. And like connecting that to, I guess, these claims of Bernie bros being sexist and hostile, like to Hillary supporters, Kamala supporters, and women. Like connecting David Brock to that, to me, is one of the biggest, or not connecting David Brock to that conversation is the biggest omission, I think. Because what is David Brock connected to, Will?
What are you talking about? Correct the record or Media Matters?
Before, he has a past.
Oh,
He has a past.
Way back then.
Yeah, because if we're going to talk about sexism, Bernie bros being hostile to women and all that,
Right.
I think it's important to mention David Brock, a person that Hillary Clinton hired.
Mm-hmm.
A person that Hillary Clinton hired as an operative of some sort. David Brock was one of the people that smeared Anita Hill.
Right. Right.
Someone who went through a very arduous a sexual assault, and I don't even know. Remember what year it was?
94 maybe? I'm not sure.
I think that was 94.
I'm not sure.
I think that was 94. She went through a very horrific and stressful, I guess, sexual misconduct situation. And David Brock was one of those people that smeared her name. But Hillary Clinton found it okay to hire him. Now, I'm wondering if Bernie Sanders did that. I think the claims of sexism he would have dealt with would have went through the roof.
It would have been it would have been bad. It was actually 91
91?
Yeah.
Okay.
when she accused Clarence Thomas.
Sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Which is assault in my book.
Right. Look, all I'm interested in is these Hillary Clinton supporters getting behind Bernie Sanders. That's all I'm interested in, because you remember in 2008, Hillary Clinton lost the Democratic nomination. It was a very tense, at times very ugly process between her and Barack Obama. But again, she lost. Then 2015, 2016 came. Everybody wanted to roll out the red carpet for her. Hey, it's her time. She's qualified. She's the most qualified. She has all the badges and everything. So let's roll. It's her time, right? It's her time.
Make it sound like a Girl Scout, dog.
I'm just saying.
She had all the badges, dog? Really?
She had all the
Make
badges,
it sound like
man.
a Girl Scout.
The badges are on her, dog. So anyway.
That's a nice cleanup. That's a nice cleanup, dog.
It was, well, they said that she was the most qualified. So here we are in 2016. We have somebody that lost the nomination in 2006. I mean, we're coming on 2020. We have somebody that lost in 2016. You would think that it would be his time now, right? I mean, Hillary Clinton, hey, you just dropped the ball because you were supposed to beat Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders supporters showed up for you. You still couldn't beat them. That's on you, man. That's on you. Don't put that on Bernie. You didn't go to those Midwest states. That's on you. So again, here we are. We're coming on 2020. You need to join the team. That's what I would think, because we're interested in unity.
You know what? See, that's the thing. Like, if she's not running now, right? If Hillary Clinton is not running now, you'd think she would have already kind of endorsed someone. You see what I'm saying? Like, if she's not running.
If she's not running.
It's
going to come. It's definitely going to come. And I believe that endorsement will be Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, yes.
Yeah, I believe it will be. I don't.
You don't think she'll return the favor to Elizabeth Warren?
Oh, yeah. Elizabeth Warren did
You see
come
what I'm
out strong
saying?
for her. But
that
she came out after
that thunderclap when she was
Yeah.
thunderclapping.
She came out after primary season, though. I think it was just before the convention when she came out.
True.
So maybe she wouldn't
Maybe she maybe
feel that.
so.
anything is
Whoa,
wrong.
wait a second. So are you suggesting that Hillary Clinton is going to hold out until the Democratic primaries are over?
No, I do not suspect that.
Okay, then. I was about to say, because if
I
that's the
suspect
case
that.
and Bernie Sanders wins, you know what's be funny? If Bernie Sanders wins and she doesn't make an endorsement. That would be really telling.
That would be telling. That would be funny.
That would be funny. You know what that would be about. You know what that would be about. If she doesn't endorse the Democratic
She already dropped
victor,
that book. She already dropped that
Democratic
book. What happened? And she blamed Bernie. So I wonder, does he get that nomination? That would be interesting.
if he does, there will be like memes
That
galore.
would be interesting.
They're gonna be like memes galore.
We're waiting.
There's gonna be people who are going to like edit the cover of that book
Uh-huh.
of what happened and put Bernie's face on it.
That's funny, man. All right. So let's move on. All right. Where do we want to go now? Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's go to this Republican proposal. A Republican proposal addressing student loan debt aims to make life much more difficult for those who do have student loans. Republican Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee is proposing making monumental changes to the way student loan debt is paid off. Currently, there are over a dozen ways that individuals can choose to pay off that loan. But under Senator Alexander's plan, that will be cut down to just two options, and both would involve garnishing wages or garnishing paychecks from employers. So under, let me see, I have this here. Yeah, all right. So under Alexander's proposal, there would be just two repayment routes, one in which borrowers' monthly bills are capped at 10% of their discretionary income, and another that spreads their payments out over a decade. Employers would be responsible for taking the funds from their employees' paychecks and sending them to the government directly. Now, look, I don't believe this is a good idea. And when we're talking about the bills, okay? So when we're talking about discretionary, like the discretionary income, this would be the income, or this would be the money that they would have left over from paying all their bills. Now, what I don't expect to be included in what would be a bill is gas, food, possibly daycare as well. So all of those amounts could amount, that can add up to a pretty hefty sum. So to me, what this proposal would do is it could potentially bankrupt a lot of people. And I think by extension, too, it would actually decrease the amount of people that are actually looking to go to a higher education school, a college, a university. Because if they are viewing the situation for what it is, I get out of school, there are many people that when they get out of college, they do not get the job that they are looking for. They're not getting the job and the salary that they are looking for. So student debt, like this student debt is really crippling a lot of people in this country, millions of people in this country. So if they see the writing on the wall, once I get out of school, I'm going to be saddled with this debt and I'm only going to have two options of paying it back, which I suspect that it might not be possible. Why would they even entertain the option of going to school?
So the key here is what they will classify as a bill.
That is,
That's the key.
that is the key. Now, under this proposal, Senator Alexander did state that if an individual that does have student loan debt is not working, is not earning an income, they won't be responsible for making a payment at that time and it won't affect their credit rating. But just during that period of time that they are
So
not
they're treating student loan debt like child support, essentially.
Pretty much, man. By 2022, student loan debt is expected to rise all the way up to $2 trillion. This is not a serious proposal to me. If the proposal does not have something to do with making tuition free, if the proposal does not have something to do with loan forgiveness, then this is not a serious proposal to me whatsoever.
Or making tuition more affordable.
Yeah. It's not a serious... If we want to do something about the economy in this country, then we have to invest in students, because students become workers. Workers help this economy grow. Okay? So I hear all the time that, man, we have all this debt in this country. It's only rising. It rose to just incredible level under the last president, Obama. And with Trump, it's rising again, of course. So we can't continue to spend. We can't offer, free education. We can't invest in things because we just don't have the money for it. We don't want to leave our children with this debt. But the only way you actually come back from a situation like that is you invest, you spend money. You just have to spend money in the right places. And again, if you invest in our youth, if you invest in workers, they will return that tenfold. They will help grow the economy.
All you're doing is applying the same principles that they apply, or a lot of people apply to business, and you're applying it to education.
Right.
Because what's the common phrase? It takes money to make money. Basically, whatever you put into something, the consequence of that is supposed to be come out to a beneficial outcome, right? Whatever you put into something, the outcome is supposed to be beneficial, or how much you put in.
Right.
So I think it's like common sense to kind of suggest that putting more attention and putting more money and more resources into making education affordable at the end of the day will be beneficial for everyone.
Right. And we're not just talking about, pre-K through 12. No, it has to include us investing in higher education. Okay? And even with people going to college, this economy is still not sustaining, I guess, people's dreams of becoming what they want to become after they get out of college with that degree in hand. It's still not, it's still not becoming a reality. So they are taking jobs where they aren't in the field that they choose to be in, or they're not making the salary that they dreamt of making. You have to do something about the economy. You have to grow the economy. But what we see are the upper levels of the economy growing. You understand? Like middle class, the poor class, that economy is not growing. Not in the right direction. No, wages are stagnant. People are working 2 and 3 jobs. We know, we've talked about before about how millions of people, most people in this country, cannot afford an emergency type situation, $500 emergency or something like that. That could mean I go broke. That could mean I lose my home.
Yeah, they're one bill away from going into bankruptcy.
Exactly. And this is the GOP plan. This is the GOP plan to do something about student debt.
But who is the Secretary of Education, Will?
DeVos? Betsy DeVos?
Betsy DeVos.
Yeah.
And what is she connected to financially?
What is she connected to
Financially, that has something to do with this.
Where are you going here?
You don't know where I'm going
No,
here?
I really don't. No, I don't.
Student loan debt companies?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, she's connected to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Military
Military, yeah.
But yeah,
So
she is.
this really does surprise me.
No, it doesn't. The Republican agenda is not to actually make situations better, make outcomes better for the majority of us. Just regular people, middle class, poor class people. It's not to actually make things better. It's to I guess increase outcomes for the already there.
You know what's kind of interesting about this, and what it makes it, why it makes, or I don't know, the things it makes harder. It's harder for people to do things, like financially. It's harder for them to kind of establish some sort of financial stability. It's hard for them to make plans for the future, and sometimes people kind of hold off on making plans because of their student loan debt.
Yeah.
Like people may, have plans to start a business or be entrepreneurs. They don't do that because they have student loan debt. A lot of people, I guess, don't want to buy a house because they have student loan debt. A lot of people don't want to start a family because they have student loan debt. That last one, to me, is the most interesting considering who's pushing this bill, because most conservatives and most Republicans are always talking about family stability, focus on the family, supporting the stability and the growth of families.
Growth. I was waiting for you to say that.
Do you
word.
see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's just kind of funny because this kind of thing actually stagnates the growth of families and actually makes people hold off on starting a family.
Right. So the approach is counterintuitive.
The approach is counterintuitive to like an agenda that they habitually push.
We don't know that this is going to be passed. There are some that believe that this will get passed. I'm not sure. I haven't heard any Democrats talk about this in support or if they oppose it or not. So we don't know. We don't know. But this is something. This is definitely something to keep an eye on. All right. Let's go to Tucker.
Oh man. Tucker
Or actually,
Meister.
let's do a quick update. An update concerning North Carolina's 9th congressional district. So earlier on Thursday, Republican Mark Harris he called for a new election in that district. And this is something that was stunning because for months he has been calling for the results to be certified. And he was up about 900 votes. But we've talked about this race before, this 9th congressional district in North Carolina, about the seems obvious corruption, the mail-in ballots that were improperly collected and I assume disposed of, before they were counted. There of course there was an investigation that was launched. So this was the first time that Mark Harris actually called for a new election, and shortly after that, the North Carolina Board of Elections ordered a new election. So I don't believe this has actually been done in decades, where there's going to actually be a new election that takes place after the original election.
But do you think a new election
Because of corruption, at least, or because of something that
but
happened.
the corruption is, or the election fraud, is sourced from one side.
It is.
So shouldn't the person that ran against the guilty party automatically be sworn in?
Well, you would think. I mean, you could make a logical argument to support that, but I don't believe anybody is, I guess, conclusively putting the blame on Mark Harris. Even though it was done to support Mark Harris's bid for Congress, I don't believe anybody is saying that, yes, he definitely has something to do with this. He ordered this, or he instructed this, or anything like that. So it's just going to be a new election. I don't have a date yet, or how is this going to happen, or when this is going to happen, but it is a good outcome. That is what we wanted. We wanted something to rectify this. There's no way that it should have been allowed that Mark Harris steps into office under these situations. No. So it is good that there's going to be a new election. Again, I guess we'll have some more information when we find out more. There might have been more already reported, but we don't have that at our, we don't have access to that information right now. Anyway, all right, so let's go to Tucker, all right? So last month, Dutch historian Rutger Bregman went to the Davos World Economic Forum and became a celebrity after video went viral of him challenging some of the billionaires at that forum. So he talked about tax avoidance. There was one specific time where he challenged Michael Dell, who is the founder and CEO of Dell Technologies. He challenged him and corrected a narrative that he was pushing about how the U.S. economy could not sustain high taxes, a high tax rate, and still be successful. Mm-hmm. And he pushed back on that. Bregman pushed back on that, saying that, well, it's already been done.
Yeah, he pretty much, a CEO of a major corporation, didn't know the history of tax rates. Oof. He didn't know the history of tax rates. He said never before in history has a tax rate like this ever been proposed. And your boy checked him round the spot.
Checked him hard, too, man. Straight up. So fast forward to last week. Tucker Carlson invites Bregman to a show for a pre-recorded interview. So Carlson was interested in talking about hypocrisy and tax avoidance, but Bregman expands the conversation into a place where Carlson is obviously uncomfortable with. So ultimately, Tucker Carlson loses his cool.
He flipped out.
Starts cursing at him, and this segment was never aired. But Bregman recorded it, and it was just released, I believe, yesterday. So we have some clips from that interview that was never released.
Are you the first person ever to note that people are flying private to talk about global warming and that none of them mention tax avoidance? Has anyone ever said that before at Davos that you know of?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on Davos history, but it is a bit hypocritical, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The vast majority of Americans, for years and years now, according to the polls, including Fox News viewers and including Republicans, are in favor of higher taxes on the rich. You know, higher inheritance taxes, higher top marginal tax rates, higher wealth taxes. It's all really mainstream. But no one's saying that at Davos, just as no one's saying it on Fox News, right? And I think the explanation for that is quite simple, is that most of the people in Davos, but also here on this channel, have been bought by the billionaire class. You know, you're not meant to say these things. And what the Murdochs basically want you to do is to scapegoat immigrants instead of talking about tax avoidance. So I'm glad you're now finally raising the issue, but that's what's been happening for the past couple of years.
And I'm taking orders from the Murdochs. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, it doesn't work that directly. But I mean, you've been part of the Cato Institute, right? You've been a senior fellow there for years. You've been taking their dirty money. They're funded by cock billionaires, you know?
Wait, why don't you tell me how it does work?
Well, it works by you taking their dirty money. It's as easy as that. I mean, you are a millionaire funded by billionaires. That's what you are. And I'm glad you now finally jumped the bandwagon, you know, of people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. But you're not part of the solution, Mr. Carlson. You're part of the problem, actually. I mean, you're probably not going to air this. But I went to Davos to speak truth to power. And I'm doing exactly the same thing right now. You might not like it, but you're a millionaire funded by billionaires, and that's the reason why you're not talking about these issues.
But I am talking about these issues.
Yeah, only now. Come on, you jumped the bandwagon. You're all like, oh, I'm against the globalist elite, blah, blah, blah. It's not very convincing, to be honest.
Why don't you go yourself, you tiny brain, and I hope this gets picked up, because you're a moron. I tried to give you a hearing, but you were too annoying for me.
You can't handle the criticism, can you?
Yo.
Can't handle the criticism, man.
That was a slow snipe.
It was aggressive.
That was a slow snipe. It was aggressive, but not like.
It was slowly aggressive.
It was slowly aggressive,
yeah, it
but
worked its way up to it.
It worked its way up there. What he did was he got Tucker comfortable.
He did.
He got Tucker comfortable and engaged with him, and then boom.
Yeah.
Dropped a bomb on his ass.
He did, man.
He turned Tucker Carlson inside out and then exposed a sensitive demon.
I think it took maybe about 4 to 5 minutes. I think that's the time frame of the whole interview. Of course, we cut it down to what we thought were some relevant parts. But yeah, he came undone because he couldn't stand being called out for his own corruption. And, you know, he starts asking him, well, you know, I'm taking orders from the Murdoch family. And Bregman is absolutely correct by saying that, no, it doesn't work that easily or that directly. And see, I believe this is something that we've talked about too. And we've talked about this many times, I believe. See, corruption can work like that, but it doesn't have to work like that.
You mean like hand-to-hand exchange?
No, see,
like
it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to be like I guess this official agreement. Like, hey, person in the media,
No.
I'm going to give you this money, and then your commentary is going to look like this.
No, it doesn't have to do that because, see, they already knew who Tucker Carlson was. Like, Tucker Carlson would not have a job on Fox News if he wasn't willing to disseminate the type of narrative that Fox News wants disseminated. So the corruption works with corruption works like, hey, let's get somebody that is going to sell this nonsense for us. We don't have to tell him to sell it. We know he's going to sell it. So Tucker Carlson, I guess, believes it's offensive to suggest that he's corrupt because all of this is coming from his own mind. Like, he's creating his own narrative. But you're still corrupt, right? I mean, like, you don't, like, it's beyond me that he doesn't even understand what the corruption is, like, where it is.
Or, like, how it's sold.
Yeah.
How it's sold, like, he brought up on Fox News Network.
Right.
And I think it was appropriate for him to go there, because if Tucker Carlson was going to have a real conversation about tax avoidance, right, then I think a good way he can do that is to address it on his show.
Right.
Now Tucker Carlson is not in control of the Fox production news and all that. He's really not in control of the entire network or everybody who is there. But after he brought up that point about how Tucker Carlson and Fox News is not doing a good job, I think an appropriate response from Tucker would have been like, yeah, we're going to do better about that. Or I'm going to do better about that to try to address these issues that we're talking about now. But he flips out. Now, why would he flip out, though?
Because
if he didn't feel some kind of way, if he didn't feel
Right.
some kind of guilt or maybe some transference of guilt, I guess, by way of his own network, then he wouldn't have flipped out like that, because Fox News constantly provides commentary to its viewers that show favoritism to the rich.
Right.
And an aversion to hiking the tax rate for rich people. So yes, I think it was appropriate for Bregman, Bregman to bring that up. Like,
Right.
if you want to have a real conversation about this, then we have to have a conversation so you can self-reflect, and so you can self-reflect on Fox as well, because you work for that network.
Well, you have to talk about all of it. See, Tucker Carlson wanted it to be a very narrow conversation talking about tax avoidance, and while that is important to talk about, and I guess you could say it's good for Republicans, conservatives to be involved in that conversation and be involved in that conversation honestly, I don't believe that Tucker Carlson is coming from a very genuine place. Because as you can see with Bregman talking about how Fox News has always, I guess, pushed back on tax increases, taxing the rich. They've always pushed back on that. Tucker Carlson has pushed back on that. But I want to talk about tax avoidance. You're talking about some other stuff. No, like, all of this stuff is things that are things that we have to address if we want to actually make them better. Tax avoidance, yes, it's an issue, but not the only issue. Let's talk about the narrative that you try to sell to your audience, which is absolutely false.
It's
But he
tax
doesn't want-
avoidance.
but he doesn't want to talk
It's
about
essentially a pro-tax avoidance narrative.
Yeah. So anyway, after this taped recording actually was released, because it was released by Bregman to Now This, who shared it, Carlson said he kind of apologized for the language. He didn't really apologize for the content or what he was saying. He said, I did what I try hard never to do on the show, and I was rude. There is some profanity, and I apologize for that. On the other hand, it was genuinely heartfelt. I meant it with total sincerity.
So you
he meant
apologize,
exactly what he said.
You apologize for the profanity, but you meant it.
No, yeah, he meant every word of it. He also said, whatever my faults or those of this channel, nobody in management has ever told us what positions to take on the air. Never, not one time. He says that he has total freedom. And again, we believe you.
So we
totally believe you.
So Tucker Carlson's shilling is organic.
That's
what he's claiming. That's what he's claiming.
See,
he's claiming his shilling for the wealthy is organic.
Well, he's wealthy.
So he's shilling for himself?
Yeah, he's shilling for himself and people just like him as well. People that are even above him. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not at Fox News. Nobody could say whether the corruption is directly like that. It happens directly. Like, you get an order, hey, this is the narrative I want you to sell. Nobody can say that. I mean, you could take Tucker Carlson for his word and say that I have total freedom, I can say what I want to. But you're still engaged in the corruption. Whether it's coming from you or somebody else, you're still engaged in it, because we know that if you're selling the idea that taxes should be low on the rich, then you're not advocating for the majority of people in this society whatsoever.
So it doesn't matter like where the advocation comes from, whether it's directly from him
Right.
or kind of whether it's from a higher place.
Nah.
It doesn't change the fact that it's flawed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's definitely not advocating for a robust economy either. Because if you want a robust economy, you would have to do some certain things, and one of those things would be you would have to tax the rich, make them pay their fair share.
He's talked about economic equality, though, Will, or economic inequality. He's talked about capitalism recently, Will. He even had a Marxist on his show. Shouldn't that tell us all we need to know about Tucker Carlson? You know what I'm saying? Why aren't you giving him some credit?
I'm not buying it. But anyway, so look, you can say that Bregman came there with an agenda. Obviously, he came there with an agenda. I think even before he went there, he knew that there was a good possibility that it was going to develop into some type of situation where this was not going to get aired. I think he pulled out the camera phone. And he recorded it. So obviously he had some suspicion that what he was going to say was not going to be received well and that it wasn't going to get aired.
But did he really expect Tucker Carlson to react like that, though?
No, I don't know if he, but I just think that he knew he was going to challenge Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson would probably implode in some way. Maybe not in that way, but he wasn't going to have something good to come back with.
Yeah, I don't think he really could predict like all the profanity.
Tiny brain.
I don't think he predicted that.
That's grade school.
But like,
Got a tiny brain.
did you hear like the laugh? Did you hear the laugh?
Yeah, man. At the beginning.
At the beginning, when there was some sort of agreement, that rich guy laugh.
I'm gonna have to clip that and use that somewhere, man.
So he got real comfortable, and I guess he got
He set him up, man.
he got the rug pulled from under him. You know what I'm saying?
He set him up good. Now, of course, people have been having fun with this and reporting on this. On the Young Turks, they had a segment about this, and Cenk Uygur talked about this, and we're gonna show part of the clip and a part of his commentary. Cenk Uygur had an interesting take. I can say that. I wouldn't. You know what? Let's just play the clip and then we'll come back and actually discuss it.
When Tucker brought him on, he was complimentary and was excited to have him on. Now, why was he excited to have him on? He liked 2 out of the 3 topics that the historian brought up at Davos. He liked the issue of, hey, they took 1,500 jets there, and so that's a common Fox News talking point. Hey, you want to talk about climate change, but you guys use jets, ha. Now, if Bregman doesn't want to play along with that, I love it. Love it, okay? So yeah, Tucker, rest of Fox News, you guys fight climate change, and then you'll get to have a conversation about hypocrisy on climate change. Total nonsense talking point on that. But Tucker did want to talk about tax avoidance, and I think he was legit on that, and they never really quite got to it because of how much conflict there was immediately in the interview. Now, but the reason there was a conflict is because Bregman kept bringing up tax increases, which Tucker didn't want any part of. The part that I didn't love is him saying you're part of the problem, not the solution, because in some ways, Tucker's anti-big business stance is interesting and one that should be encouraged in the right wing.
I question how authentic it is, and I find it strange that you're siding with Tucker Carlson on this.
I'm not siding with Tucker Carlson. I love some of the things that Bregman said, but Tucker was open to some portion of that conversation, and I want the right wing thinking about, hey, how come Amazon paid no taxes last year?
Right. So basically, Cenk's argument boils down to Tucker Carlson came into a situation and thought he was going to eat a Snickers bar.
Yeah.
And then he opens the wrapper and it turns out to be a cucumber.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. That's Cenk's argument. And what I do like about that kind of exchange between Cenk and Anna is Anna kind of checked him a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of checked Cenk's naivety about Tucker Carlson's criticism of big business. Because yes, Tucker Carlson has kind of criticized capitalism, but he's done it from a different place. He wants to fix capitalism in a way to kind of reinvigorate his own ideology. Like, we need to fix capitalism so more men could get in the workplace and more women could stay at home. I'm not saying he said that, but that's the kind of place he's coming from. His solution is still rooted in his conservative ideology and why he wants to fix these things. Or like saying we need to solve the immigration problem because America needs jobs. And jobs equal better family. You know what I'm saying? So it always traces back to his conservative ideology. That's why Anna said she didn't use the word disingenuous. She just said she doesn't know how much she can believe his stance against big business, because he doesn't have a stance against big business. And I think just Cenk is just naive about that part.
During the segment, Cenk, again, we only showed a short portion of this. So I don't want you to get the impression that he was against Bregman in any way. He agreed with what Bregman was saying. Cenk's contention, or I guess what he was feeling, was like there was a real conversation that could have been had here, and because Bregman consistently went into other things, excluding tax avoidance, he went into tax increases and how Tucker Carlson is engaged in the corruption, and he said that he's part of the problem, not part of the solution. So he said that, well, Cenk is feeling like this was a lost opportunity. We want the Republican Party. We want people that have a conservative ideology to actually talk about this, because he said this too. It is a growing feeling, not just on the left, but people that may have conservative ideologies that, like, big business is screwing us. Like, we actually have to do something about it. They're warming up to the idea that taxes might have to be raised on the rich. And we've talked about that before as well.
And the polls indicate that.
The polls indicate that, not just on the left side, on the right side when you're talking about voters. So if it's a genuine conversation to be had, you don't want that to implode. You don't want to get in the way of that genuine conversation, because that could be an opportunity to actually bridge a gap. But do I think Tucker Carlson actually wanted to engage in a genuine type of conversation, be honest about big business and what needs to be done with the economy, what needs to be done with tax increases, what needs to be done with tax avoidance? Do I really believe he was being genuine? No. So what Bregman did, I wholeheartedly support. Call him out, because he is part of the corruption. He is a demagogue. Okay? He's a demagogue. And if we actually want to do something about pushing this nation forward, not just on the economy, but on race issues or whatever, we have to get rid of these demagogues. We have to challenge them, because they are leading to they are actually pushing our country in the wrong direction. So to actually try to have an honest conversation with Tucker Carlson about something that he doesn't support, that's purpose. That doesn't even make sense.
I'm going to play court here. I'm going to play court. For people who are watching the show that this is maybe their first time or their second time, or they don't frequently watch the show, Court is a viewer that usually calls into our show, and he plays devil's advocate, as well as giving kind of his detailed rebuttal about our commentary. And he provides some very insightful commentary himself. So I'm going to play court right now and be devil's advocate. Even though I see Cenk in this situation as being naive, I will say that both could have occurred. I will say that. What Cenk wanted from that interview could have happened, and what Bregman wanted for that interview could have happened. I think both could have happened. So he could have gotten into a conversation, which I think would have been a better setup, because now you have groundwork, you have a whole framework to work around, to address. You kind of like construct an entire narrative. You can construct an entire argument, and you kind of infuse the interview with all of these details, right? And then that's when you drop the bomb. So maybe he could have done that. Maybe he could have had that conversation first and kind of infused that engagement in that environment, like with all this information, all this data, all these facts, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, Tucker, what about you? What about Fox? How are you going to deal with this stuff I just presented? How are you going to deal with that? Because I don't feel Fox is doing a service to this topic. I don't feel you're doing a disservice or I feel you're doing a disservice to this topic. So maybe he could have built it up a little more to where a conversation could have happened, then drop the bomb on him. I think both could have happened.
But see, at that point, what you're talking about is instead of a 4 or 5 minute conversation and it blowing up, it might be a 7 or 8 minute conversation and then blow up. It was going to blow up either way, because if he involves Tucker Carlson in his narrative, like if he actually calls him out about his corruption and how he doesn't make anything better, like how he is not part of the solution, it's going to blow up because Tucker Carlson is going to be offended because of that.
Okay,
like
yeah.
for Bregman to not, like for that not to have happened, Bregman would have had to, I guess, be okay with Tucker Carlson selling a lie. He would have had to been okay with Tucker Carlson knowing what he knows about Tucker Carlson and not bringing it up. Yeah, let's talk about tax avoidance, Tucker Carlson. Let's talk about corruption, Tucker Carlson. I'm not going to bring you up on this. I'm not going to bring Fox News up. But let's have a serious discussion about this with you.
But see, that's the thing. I'm not saying like the conversation would have been serious. I'm not saying the conversation would have been serious as it pertains to Tucker Carlson being a part of that conversation. But if we're talking about a perspective being shared over a large network about that subject, I do think I can see where Cenk is coming from. Mm-hmm. Like, I can see where he's coming from that standpoint, as far as that being an important element that should have been included. So I'm not even saying Bregman should have taken Tucker Carlson seriously. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying set it up to where he has a little bit more to answer for. So there's a little bit more substance there. That's all I'm saying. So I can see where Cenk is coming from that point. All the other stuff about Tucker addressing big business, that's naive. So, but I can see where he's coming from. I think there was room to at least like address the things. I'm not saying he should have taken the conversation seriously, and I'm not saying I would have taken it seriously, but at least there would have been, I guess, some more meat to chew on.
But it still wouldn't have been aired.
What?
It still wouldn't have been aired. You think it would have been aired? Because it would have eventually blew up. It would have eventually blew up. It may not blew up in the same way.
Okay, well,
but it would not have been aired.
But if it blew up, but if it, like you say, if it blows up anyway, at least that is still there. At least that is still there. At least that part of it is still there.
But think about the audience of Fox News, right? I mean, they have their audience for a particular reason. I mean, they buy this nonsense, right? So if they see Tucker Carlson being attacked, are they going to learn anything from the conversation that was just had minutes prior? I don't think so.
Okay then. Will they learn anything now?
No.
Okay then. So why not?
That's why. Look,
so
I think this is just for entertainment purposes, really. I think this is just for entertainment because even he knew what was going to happen, because if he didn't, he wouldn't have started filming right from the beginning. He knew what was going to happen.
True.
I don't think progress was meant to happen right here. I don't think progress was meant to happen.
Basically it was meant to trigger Tucker Carlson.
I think so.
And Tucker's response to it really didn't address anything.
No. He called him a moron.
He just
and he said he had a tiny brain.
He just addressed like I guess how he felt about the dude. Mm-hmm. He kind of just doubled down. So he really didn't address the issue.
No, he didn't. He didn't address the criticism. At one point he said, "You don't know anything about Fox News. Like, you don't even get Fox News where you are." There's the internet, man. I mean, like, what are you talking about? We know what you like, it's crazy, man. But anyway, all right, let's leave that there. All right. All right, 8:25. All right, let's go to the 11-year-old. All right. So, an 11-year-old student was arrested after refusing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and allegedly threatening violence. This happened at Lawton Childs Middle Academy in Lakeland, Florida on February 4th. The substitute teacher, Anna Alvarez, demanded that the student stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, but the student refused, like I said. He told her that he believed that the flag was racist and that the national anthem was offensive. And then Alvarez, the substitute teacher, asked him, quote, "Why, if it was so bad here, did he not go to another place to live?" The response from the student was that they brought me here. Now,
Dog,
that part is funny.
That part is funny because it's like, you should know this. I'm 11 year old.
You really
I'm 11
should.
years old, dude.
And the student is black. Okay, we didn't share that information, but yeah, the student is black. Now, the question that she asked him about, if you don't like it here, why not move? Like, why not get up out of here? Like, that's stupid to begin with, because the child is 11 years old. You know that he doesn't have the means to actually move out of here, right? So this is just the beginning of her trying to escalate the situation.
Escalate and antagonize an 11-year-old.
So this dialogue continues. Alvarez then told him, quote, "Well, you can always go back because I came here from Cuba, and the day I feel I'm not welcome here anymore, I would find another place to live." So at this point, it is stated that she called the main office, quote, "because I did not want to continue dealing with them." Escalation number 2. So this is a kid that doesn't want to stand for the national anthem, right? You get into it with him. Now, it's not required for him to stand for the not the national anthem, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I misspoke.
Yeah.
So it's not required for him to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, but because of her personal feelings, she feels like, oh, he's doing the wrong thing. I got into him with a little bit because of me. And so because I feel some type of way, I'm going to call the main office to get him out of here because he's causing a disruption now.
So if she calls the main office and requests that a student to be removed, who comes?
That would be the resource officer, the police officer. Yeah. Yes, and that's exactly what happened. So they did take him out of the classroom. And I guess this is where a situation arose. And they said that he was being disruptive. He caused the scene. He allegedly threatened to beat up Alvarez, the substitute teacher. And without violence, he resisted arrest. So he was arrested. And he was charged with disrupting a school function and resisting arrest without violence. So he denies this. He denies he had an interview with Bay News 9, and it was with him and his mother. And he denied ever actually threatening the substitute teacher with violence. The Polk County Public School spokesman, Kyle Kennedy, he said that the boy was not arrested because he refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. He said, quote, "Students are not required to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance." He also said that the 6th grader was collared, quote, "after becoming disruptive and refusing to follow repeated instructions by school staff and law enforcement."
Oh, well, okay, let me ask you something, Will. How did the disruption start?
It started with the substitute teacher having a problem with him not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The teacher decided to, I guess, stop class. Right. Or stop class from commencing because they were probably doing this before class. Mm-hmm. But the teacher or the substitute teacher decided to raise the issue. So the substitute teacher technically disrupted the day.
No doubt.
Technically disrupted the classroom.
Yeah.
Because they were the one that initiated the situation. So you would think that they would consider that fact in regard to like
anything that happened after
that. Because personally, like regardless of whether he like actually threatened the teacher or not, I don't really care. I really don't care what the student did after the fact. I don't really care what emotional state he was in as he was standing up for his rights. And not just his right, something that's actually in the school handbook as stated by, what was the superintendent?
It was the spokesman.
The
for
spokesman.
Polk County Public
Schools. The spokesman for Polk County Schools. So, as the spokesman, you understand that that's not, something that is supposed to be forced on students.
Right.
So, if a disruption or a circumstance or altercation comes as a result of a teacher asking a student to do something that he doesn't have to do, who is responsible in that situation? Who is responsible for escalating that situation? Who is responsible for the actual disruption?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're still blaming the kid. You're saying that he should have complied even though he wasn't legally and according to the school's own handbook required to comply with that request.
Again, like you said, she escalated it. She could have squashed this at any time. The disruption, like I said, the arrestable offense didn't occur until he actually got out of the classroom. That's according to the police. That's according to the school. So why did this teacher feel the need to feel so offended to call the main line, call the principal, call the school resource officer, call anybody, because a student was doing exactly what that student was allowed to do in school?
So what you're saying is, if the substitute teacher would have followed the rules, the day would have proceeded without incident.
Without incident.
So again, we ask, who is the actual disruptor?
Right.
And then who is actually antagonizing the situation? Who is antagonizing the situation here? It's a teacher who's bullying an 11-year-old and being antagonistic.
Right. And saying that, well, you should do this. You should do this. Even though you don't have to do this, you should do this. So this case on Tuesday, Brian Haas, who is the state attorney for the 10th Judicial Circuit in Florida, he said that the case was closed, that there was not going to be a prosecution. But I believe that was assuming that the student and his family was going to be receptive to taking a deal. And so the deal had to do with a diversion program, possibly a community service, possibly a fine. And the family is like, no, we're not doing that. Because I guess they would be admitting fault, admitting that this boy was, this was a result of the boy's actions. When no,
it's not.
It was the result of this substitute teacher's actions. This should have been a nothing story. You could have felt any type of way about what that boy did and not stand up for the pledge. It could have offended you. It could have just raised your blood pressure. It could have done anything to you. But you don't have a right to say you must do this when he doesn't have to whatsoever. You made this whole situation. Now, what's good is that I believe the school has stated that this substitute teacher, Alvarez, she's not going to be working for this district, I guess, anymore.
Okay, then. So by doing that,
Right.
they're
What are you
saying,
saying?
what are you saying? They're saying what she did was inappropriate.
Right.
If what she did is inappropriate and she is no longer allowed to work there, by default, you're saying this 11-year-old is essentially off the hook. To me. So the whole punishment aspect of this should be completely thrown out
It should
because
be.
he's not at fault.
Nope. He shouldn't. He's not at fault and he shouldn't be at fault. The charges should be just completely thrown out. I believe he was also given 3 days of suspension from school. It's like, man, all of you adults in this situation are going about this the entirely wrong way. You're placing the blame on the student when he was well within his rights to just sit there and do nothing. I remember being in school. Now, when I was in 6th grade, I believe I probably did stand and put my hand on my heart and did the Pledge of Allegiance. By the time I got to high school, and especially by the time I got to senior year, I wasn't doing that anymore. Now, I would stand, but I wasn't reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I wouldn't put my hand on my heart or anything like that, because there's a lot of things in that Pledge of Allegiance that rub me the wrong way. Now, I don't believe it's the same thing as the national anthem. The national anthem, we have talked about many times. I have a serious problem with that. I can't unlearn the information that I have learned about the national anthem. The Pledge of Allegiance is a little bit different. I don't consider it specifically racist. The national anthem, I do. But the Pledge of Allegiance, if you actually just listen to the words, I don't think it rings true when you're talking about this nation. So for me to engage in it, I would be living a lie.
It just feels
Phony.
very phony and very coercive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You must
so
do
if,
this.
If people are being forced to utter words under coercion,
What does that sound like?
that seems like that's some sort of loyalty to nothing other than self-interest. That's what that is. Those who are kind of force this onto people,
That sounds
or
like
coerce people to say it, that's nothing but loyalty and for the sake of self-interest.
it sounds like authoritarian rule.
No, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is because, you should kind of advocate that your country improve or progress so that people actually feel happy about saying a pledge like that.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It would make sense
True.
if this country functioned in a way that people were, confident about. Then I think people would be happy, to recite the Pledge of
Exactly.
Allegiance. So to me, that just says that, people who get bent out of shape about others not wanting to stand up and put their hand on their heart and recite the pledge, to me, that exposes a weakness within them.
Yeah, it does.
That exposes, to me, that's how I see it.
Like, people that don't engage in this type of behavior obviously feel like the country isn't actually looking out for them and many others. So we have work to do. That's basically what it's saying. We have work to do as a country to, I guess, fix the conditions of many of its people.
Sounds
Right?
very cult-like, doesn't it?
It does. Well, yeah, that you have to do this. But too many times we see when we bring up things that actually need to be addressed in this country, too many times that message is suppressed. No, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to say anything about it. Just, go ahead and push patriotism, support your country unconditionally, and just let that be the end of it. Nah, there are too many issues in this country that have to be addressed.
Like, if I were to wake up in the morning and, let's say, look in the mirror and do like a pledge allegiance to myself and make assertions about myself that were not necessarily true or not necessarily accurate. I pledge allegiance to myself, and I state all these altruistic qualities and traits about myself that aren't really accurate. If I wake up every morning and do that, right? Like, what are the chances that I'm going to actually change those traits? Because if I wake up every morning and start praising these traits I do not have or I need to work on, what are the chances that I am going to address those traits and fix them? You know what I'm saying?
It could even get worse than that, man. What if you had kids and you forced them to say some untrue stuff?
About me.
About you.
About me.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to my father, who's the greatest father in the world, who treats my mother with respect, and who takes care of me. And what if all that junk is not true?
What if they see you assaulting the mother?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just an example, but still, the fact is that this student had the right to just sit there, mind his own damn business, and not be harassed by this substitute teacher. But now he's looking at charges. I don't know if that's going to be true. I don't know if the DA in this case or whatever, I don't know if they are actually just going to drop it and just leave it at that without the diversion program or community service or fine. I don't know that as of yet, but this student should be left alone, man. Just leave this dude alone. All right.
You want to tackle another story? Or
go
to the phone?
Yeah, let's go to the phone line. Let's go to the phone, man. All right. Because we talked about it a lot. Of course, when we talked about Bernie and all that hate that took a minute to get through all that hate.
That nonsensical hate.
Yeah, man. And it's only going to get worse.
You know what else I wanted to mention while we were talking about that? There's been like a swath or influx of these claims about Bernie Sanders supporters or somebody wearing a Bernie Sanders shirt approaching them in a bar and saying some real messed up stuff.
Really?
Like one tweet I read, it said something like, somebody in a Bernie Sanders t-shirt walked up to me or sat next to me in a bar and said gentrification is a good thing. And I'm like, that shit did not happen. I'm like, you know good and well that shit did not happen. There was there was another tweet too. Just overheard a white man at the bar, another bar, it's a separate person, at the bar explaining to a woman that, gentrification is good. Yeah. And he says, in the same breath, he segues to who he supports for president. Guess who it is? Guess. And later on in the thread, it was Bernie Sanders. So yeah, it's
that's a true Bernie Sanders supporter right
I
there.
was, again, this is a fucking theme. I was in a bar at 11 a.m. today, and a guy in a Bernie shirt came up to me and said, class is more important than race, and then tried to get my number. Now,
it could happen.
It could happen. So what happened is, what happened was, I saw all these tweets, and then other people started tweeting, sarcastic shit, to make fun of it. But that shit is going around. So it's kind of hard to tell who is being ironic and who is being sarcastic now because of the response. But I've been seeing this. I saw someone in a Bernie t-shirt, say some stupid shit. I'm like, shut up. That shit never happened.
Like I said, this is only February. you know, we have all the way until next year. The debates won't start until, I guess, presumably at the end of this year. I haven't looked at the schedule, if there is a schedule out already. But I would say it's going to be in the fall. I would assume maybe late summer. I'm not sure, but again, we have a long time, man. We have a lot of hate to go through. There's going to be stories like that. There's going to be outlandish stories. You know, we're going to hear more from David Brock. we're gonna hear more from all of these establishment type voters that think that Bernie Sanders is just coming in and trying to ruin things for Democrats.
And again, and I mentioned this again, it's like if people are going to be adamant about voters and people who support any candidate, whatever, but specifically Bernie Sanders supporters, if they're going to be so adamant about, you know, making sure Bernie supporters behave nicely this go around, don't mess it up this go around, don't repeat last go around, I think that should apply to everyone.
It should.
Should apply to everyone.
Yeah. And you know, before when we were talking about Hillary Clinton and who she may support, and you know, like if she does come out before the convention and actually gives her endorsement to somebody, I said that it would make sense, and we do expect that it would be Kamala Harris that gets that endorsement, right? But then that would be strange, actually. That would actually be strange because look, Kamala Harris came out probably before anybody else and adopted Bernie Sanders' positions about Medicare for all.
Rhetorically.
Look, we're just talking about the surface here. Okay. We're just talking about the surface. All right. She adopted his position. She's not taking corporate money. She's with the Green New Deal. Again, all of this is rhetorically. Okay.
But she's speaking quite well, though.
But she's speaking quite well. Right? Now, those aren't positions that Hillary Clinton took in 2016, and I haven't heard her say anything about that right now. So the candidate that would make most sense to me, Biden if he gets in, we don't know if he's going to get in or not, or Klobuchar.
Ah, why? Because they're more moderate?
Yes.
They're more moderate. That's
no
right.
doubt.
You're right. It would be weird if she supported Kamala Harris because...
Why not support Bernie?
Exactly. That wouldn't make sense. So she would have to kind of support Elizabeth Warren or Klobuchar.
Well, see, even
not even Elizabeth Warren,
because she's
recently I don't want to say she went off the deep end because that's not my perspective, but a lot of people would say she went off the deep end as far as like maybe who she's appealing to. I think she mentioned something about reparations recently, dog.
Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah. So yeah.
Maybe she heard Marianne Williamson.
Oh hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Because Marianne Williamson is in New Hampshire and Iowa right now, and she's campaigning. And Marianne Williamson is strong on reparations. She has talked about it many times, and we've talked about many appearances that she has been on, and you know she's talked about reparations. So maybe Warren's getting some of that buzz and like, ooh.
It's likely and expected that candidates will play off each other, obviously. So they're
I want to see how strong she is.
They're paying attention to what other candidates are doing, kind of adjusting their approach in their campaign based on that. So I'm gonna have to look that up, man. Yeah. Anyway, well, we didn't specifically state it, but you see you see it at the bottom of the screen. Right now is the time to call in if you would like to be on the program. If you have a question for us, or you have a comment. If you have a question or comment, definitely call in. The number is 669-900-6833. We would love to hear from you. Looks like we still have a lot of people that are viewing the stream, maybe listening to the stream. If you do have something to say, again, now is the time. So, like I said, I want to see if Warren actually said something about reparations, because Warren Harris back reparations for Black Americans affected by slavery. And Harris. Boo. I'm not booing the concept. I'm just booing like Harris for pushing that shit, because she just strikes me as disingenuous. Like, she was on what's the show? The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and she was talking about the new experience she is having, running for president, things she was ready for and things that she wasn't ready for. I think she was addressed in that little failed photo op. She didn't consider it a failed photo op, where she was pouring hot sauce.
The hot sauce.
The Texas Pete on, I don't know, she had like a greens or something. And she was kind of suggesting that like, she didn't know that people were going to follow around. I just want to go eat. That's all. I'm hungry. I just want to go eat. Like this part of this new experience, you know, that I'm not ready for. Because, well, before she said that, she talked about things she was ready for. But she claimed she wasn't ready for people following her around. I'm like, bullshit. You're running for president. Don't tell me you didn't know people were going to follow you around.
Yeah, she knew that. She knew. Of course she knew that. All right, so we have our first caller. And it is a very familiar number. It's coming from the 443. Call, you're on the air live with LTMB. What's going on?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing? It's Court.
Can't complain, Court, man. Good to hear from you, man. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm doing all right. I think you guys are starting to get more popular, man. I see 3-digit numbers watching. I see a lot more trolls. You guys are starting to blow up.
Nah, it's like
you guys are starting to blow up.
I gotta pop that. I gotta pop it, man. But yeah, you're right. But you're right. I saw a lot of trolls, man. That's funny though. We weren't really.
That's how you know you're saying the right shit. When you start getting the trolls, like when you start getting the trolls, you know you're saying the right shit. Because they're all like, there's one dude in there, New York bad boy or something. That dude, man, I don't know. Because you guys might want to block that guy. He seems a little like he's racist or neo-Nazi or something. I don't know. Something about make America Goyim again or something.
I was trying to pay attention to the chat, but it was, you know, I was trying to read the stories. There was too much going on in the chat, man. Way too much.
Yeah, I know. So I want to talk to you guys about Bernie Sanders, about the fake hate coming at Bernie Sanders, and Bregman splitting Tucker Carlson's wig back because it was awesome to watch, and I was very happy about watching that happen to Tucker Carlson. I got to tell you, it put a big smile on my face. So I was reading this article on Reddit yesterday by a journalist. Her name is Isabella Gomez, and she writes for Teen Vogue, right? And she wrote this article explaining why she could no longer support Bernie Sanders, and that she said it would mainly come down to, I'm just, I'm summarizing, mainly come down to she doesn't believe that she doesn't believe that he's concerned about minorities, and she doesn't believe that he's concerned about women, which I think is utter bullshit, because during the campaign, he allowed 2 Black Lives Matter activists to straight up take his live mic.
Yep. And
I mean, like, who does that? Who does that, right? And then, I mean, as far as I get it, he might not have been. He should have been more sensitive with his apology, but we have a president who brags about grabbing women by the pussy. Mm-hmm. I have no real entertainment for somebody who's going to use that kind of bullshit to denigrate Bernie Sanders. And see, this is what pisses me off about the left, because we're so worried about looking good and virtue signaling, we will fucking shoot ourselves in the foot every fucking time, like Al Franken. Al Franken was probably one of the most, probably one of the leading senators for women's rights. Like in decades, maybe decades. And why do we get rid of Al Franken? Because a right-wing operative named Roger Stone gets some pictures sent to him by another right-wing advocate, a female comedian, and they used this picture, they used it underhandedly, and they knew that the left would blow right the fuck up because we're so worried about, we have to be better people. We have to be better people. Well, look at what we did. We got rid of an advocate for women who was one of the most influential senators at the time for a right-wing operative who is about to go to prison for being a right-wing operative. Stupid. It's fucking stupid. And like people are shooting themselves in the foot. Oh, I can't vote for Bernie. He's too old.
Well, hold on. Corey, let me take you back to that article you're talking about. Let me take you back to that article. So the author is saying that she can't support Bernie anymore because she doesn't think that, I guess, he's the best representative for women and people of color. Would it now be a strange time to develop that type of perspective?
Oh, she's a fucking shill. Well, she's a shill, man. Like, I mean, I don't know what Isabella Gomez's politics are. But let's look at the magazine. Okay, this is Teen Vogue. Now, Teen Vogue has done some dynamite journalism. Don't get me wrong. Especially when Trump first got elected. They came up with some stories that, made your hair stand up on the back of your neck. They were very well informed, gave you lots of information, great synopsis and breakdown. But it's Teen Vogue, man. It's Teen Vogue. It's mainstream pop culture Teen Vogue. And that's what mainstream pop culture is going to do to people like Bernie Sanders, because mainstream pop culture is ultimately funded by corporate America. And corporate America does not want Bernie Sanders to be anywhere near the presidency, because if Bernie Sanders gets near the presidency, it's like with AOC. They don't like the Job Creators Network put up a billboard in New York, explaining how the billboard sign said, "Thanks AOC for nothing." Well, it's a Job Creators Network, and it's funded by the Koch brothers. And the former CEO of Home Depot, who is an ardent Trump supporter and a rabid right winger, he was the one who put that billboard sign up there. But do you think people give a shit? Do you think they study that? Do you think they know who the Koch brothers are? Most people don't know who the fuck Koch brothers are. Not that if you're not into politics, you don't know who the Koch brothers are. But it gets passed off as this is a legitimate gripe about Bernie Sanders, because this journalist and this particular magazine that has done some good work in the past, has decided to voice her concern about Bernie's insincerity towards women and minorities. It's utter bullshit, and she's a fucking hack. I mean, she might have done good work, but in this regard, she's a hack.
What makes me wonder about pieces like that, or people who share that kind of perspective, is if they are going to peg Bernie Sanders in that way and characterize him in that way. Okay. But what I really wish would happen is if they kind of apply that same standard to the person that they support or they think is going to make a good president. So I'm pretty sure they already have that in their mind of who they are going to vote for. So I just find it strange that if they're going to characterize Bernie in that way, that he's not good for black people, he's not good for women, then I really wish that these same people would explain that, or explain how the individuals that are running with or against him are good for black people and good for women. Well, I think that the assumption is like Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren or Amy Klobuchar or whoever, what other women are running, are automatically good for women just because they're women. Or Kamala Harris is good for black people because she's kind of black. I just don't get it. Like, if the point is to look for evidence of one candidate, this particular candidate being Bernie Sanders, of him being good for black people or him being good for women, great. But where's the follow-up? Where's the follow-up to show that these other characters contain those characteristics? You see what I'm saying?
But see, this is coming from a former Bernie Sanders supporter, right? That's why the timing is strange to me. Because if you were already a Bernie Sanders supporter, then you would have probably been pushing back on the notion that Bernie Sanders is not good for women or not good for black people or people of color. But to get here now that he's announcing and now that he's running for president in 2020, to all of a sudden get here now, what happened between the last time he ran for president and now that you think, no, he's done something to where, I can't support him anymore? What did he do that was against people of color, black people? What did he do that was against women where you feel like, no, this guy right here, no, he can't have my vote. He can't have women vote. He shouldn't have women vote. He shouldn't have people of color's votes.
I'm gonna go look
it's strange to me. If you had the narrative back in 2015, 2016,
getting arrested with black activists in the 1960s. There are pictures of that man getting arrested with black activists in the 1960s. Now, people got upset with me because I said back when it counted, but they didn't take into context. They didn't take into account my context. Back in the 1960s, before the civil rights movement, if you were a white person and you actually helped black people, you could get in trouble for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, black people were second-class citizens, right? Like, they didn't have rights. Anytime they went out to the streets to protest, they could get beat up, put in jail, even killed, and really nobody gave a fuck. As a matter of fact, the only real reason why America started to have a sea change was because of Bloody Sunday when they realized just how fucking violent it was because it got captured on national television. Now, you tell me a man who is willing to stick his neck out like that for people who don't have no fucking rights doesn't appreciate black people. Fuck that. And fuck that reporter. That's bullshit.
I'm just skimming the article now, and I'm looking at some of her points she's making, and they're whack. I mean, there's nothing that she's specifically pointing to as far as policy-wise. She criticizes the Bernie Sanders campaign, I guess, for not focusing on certain states, like certain southern states and whatnot. That's one thing she calls out, but I'm trying to find actual policy disagreements.
You won't.
I know the FOSTA-SESTA legislation. A lot of people have a problem with that. But again, what I need to do, I need to look up like, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and other candidates vote on that legislation as well. So I'm gonna definitely read this article in depth and then do some counter research.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like it's a Teen Vogue article and it's pop culture. It's basically what it comes down to. All right, fellas. So about the Tucker Carlson and the Bregman segment. Okay, so God, wasn't that awesome? Watch that dude flounder like that and lose his shit.
Yeah.
That was good stuff. That was good stuff, man. And I think what got him was basically Bregman called Tucker Carlson out for his being bought, and that's what pissed him off. So if you notice, the conversation started off civil. He wanted to talk about the hypocrisy about people avoiding taxes, and he wanted to talk about he wanted to talk about that. And he comes in with the rich guy laugh and all this and everything, and it's all good up until Bregman shows everybody that's watching Fox News that they're being lied to by a little mealy-mouthed millionaire who's getting paid by billionaires to lie to them. That's when Tucker Carlson flipped the fuck out. Tucker Carlson didn't have a problem until he said, you are a millionaire who gets paid by billionaires, and that's why you don't talk about this. And see, the reason why it got so combative, Mike, and I get it, you're right. It could have had both. It could have had both points. It could have had a civil discussion. Maybe some Fox News people would have been like, okay, Tucker Carlson, he's explained some of the hypocrisy of rich people. I don't have to hate Tucker Carlson, and I don't have to hate the Bregman guy, but maybe I can stop harping on rich people so much. Who knows, right? Who knows what the mind of a Republican goes through? But it wasn't going to be civil because Bregman called Tucker Carlson out for basically being a bitch boy for billionaires, and Tucker Carlson knew it, and that's why he had to act that way. Because like when you're an authoritarian, you have to act violent. You have to be like that because you don't have a leg to stand on. It's like that's what the Buddhists tell us, man. Like violence is the answer for the ignorant. When you don't know what the answer is, that's when you go to violence. It doesn't have to be physical violence. It could be rhetorical or verbal violence, like Tucker used. He's got to cuss the dude out because he can't stand on his own 2 feet, and he knows he can't. And that was satisfying to watch, man. That was so satisfying to watch.
We agree, man. That's why we wanted to cover it. That laugh that Tucker had, man, that jump was. Again, I'm gonna have to use it somehow. I can't even.
Buffet, go get the caviar. And these people like eat this shit up. Most of them don't even make more than $50,000 a year. You know what I mean? Like they sit there and eat this shit up like it's so great that Tucker Carlson carries water for these billionaire motherfuckers while he spends his millions of dollars telling you fucking lies. And they just eat that shit up. It's disappointing, man. Disappointing.
All right, Court. We appreciate you calling in just like any other time, man. Just blessing us with a little bit of knowledge, your take. Appreciate that you're so loyal, man. Always call in, man.
Oh, for real.
Hey, man, it's fun to call in to you guys. You offer excellent commentary. You're very intelligent, and your analysis helps me with my work on Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit, man.
That's funny, man. I don't know if I'm ready to dive in that water, man.
Had the, what do you had the silver?
It's hard,
silver.
man. There's
Silver?
a lot of racists
Yeah.
on there, man. There's a lot of racists and there's a lot of trolls, man. It's hard. Sometimes it's just hard, but you can do it. I mean, you guys are smart. You can definitely hold your own in our politics. I have no doubt.
All right, man. You have a good weekend, man.
All right, fellas, take it easy.
All right.
Peace.
Yeah, this is Tony.
What's going on, Tony? How you doing tonight, man?
These people exist, yo. They exist.
Yeah.
Those are the dudes that get kicked out of the Marine Corps. But
And they really do think that they're
yeah.
not hateful, though.
Yeah, oh yeah. They're not hateful. They got all these fucking crazy ass fucking swastika tattoos and stuff, and yeah, they get found out by the platoon, and it's like, hey, you got to go to First Sergeant's office. They be writing up that Article 15 and start doing their set package to process them out of the fucking Corps.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Did you see that article on Politico about the sustained ongoing disinformation assault targets then presidential candidates?
I don't think I saw it.
Yeah, they're ramping it up again. Oh, it's Russia again. It's Russia. Russia's talking about Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Beto O'Rourke. It's Russia, foreign states. China's getting in on it, and it's like, no. I mean, even if that is the case, there's still legitimate gripes by real Americans that they're talking about. But it's like they're trying to make it seem like, oh no, it's all foreign actors doing this. That's what this article is talking about. It just came out like the other day. So it's like they're ramping it up again. Oh, yep. Any criticism is it's somehow the bots and the trolls, and they're fooling the Americans into believing this. And it's like, what the fuck, dude?
That's
like, when nobody has
man.
any legitimate concerns about these people, and if they do, it's because we're getting tricked by somebody in Russia or some other country.
Man, just get ready, man. It's gonna. This is just the beginning. They're gonna keep doing that because, like you said, there are no legitimate criticisms of, I guess, these, certain candidates that we do have legitimate criticism of. No, those are unwarranted. I guess they're coming from Russia. They come from China. I think the whole talk about it's going to be minimized anyway right now because we do have candidates that aren't going to, or supposedly they're not going to take corporate PAC money. So it's going to be significantly less attention on the corruption, I believe, than what we saw in 2016. I don't think we're going to see things about speaking fees unless Biden gets in, because we have something very recent to call attention to with Biden advocating for a Republican, and that does have to do with the speaking fee. But as far as the other ones, I'm not aware of any of them.
Yeah, it's an interesting article. I highly advise you to check it out just to see what the direction the discourse is going. Yeah. I mean, it's the same old direction it's always been going, but see how quickly it's going, I guess.
Right. All right, man. I'll take a look.
Yeah,
at it.
I thought. Huh? What's up?
Yeah, I said I'll take a look at it.
All right, that's all I want to talk about.
All right, man. Good talking to you, Tony. Good talking to you, man.
All right, y'all. Good night.
All right. All right, so let's get to the next caller. I believe that is 484 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Am I on?
Yep.
Yes, you are.
You are.
Oh, okay. Hi guys. I'm Alex. I'm calling from Pennsylvania. I gotta be honest. This is the first time.
Hold on. We didn't get that. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from God's country in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Basically.
All right.
Thought I'd just throw that out there. This is actually this day. I actually just discovered your stuff about an hour ago. I was listening to the live stream and thought, hey, might as well call it. So I don't know if this is out of left field or not, but I wanted to mostly talk about the environment, climate change. I'm a chemist by trade, but I don't know a lot about this issue. So I got a textbook. I've been reading through it, and I have to be honest. I'm not it's not looking good. In terms of our ability to actually halt, or maybe not even halt, but slow the progression of not complete, but kind of widespread ecological collapse. And that's where I'm at right now, and I don't really know what to do with that conclusion.
Okay.
Mostly what I'm worried about is that the current systems we have set up, and by that I mean the way that we do business, the way that things are manufactured, the kind of fuel and energy sources we use. There is no way for essentially capitalism to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to continue to get worse to the point where certain feedback loops create runaway warming effects, which, give that 100 years and you're going to have to redraw maps, rearrange populations. Is anyone else as stressed about this as me?
Yeah, it's definitely, look, a lot of people believe that it is the issue to talk about. It is the number one issue to talk about. If you don't believe that, I guess in the system that we have in capitalism, that we can actually address it, what do you think would be the fix? Or I guess what direction do you think we need to go in?
I'm not going to pretend like I have answers. I don't, but just to give you I work at a laboratory, and more than one of my lab mates is a young Earth Christian, and a couple of them are skeptical. These are scientists, and they're skeptical on climate science. So I'm not hopeful at all.
I get it.
I think kind of your first inclination is correct, and that as long as capitalism is in place, I don't think there's going to be a lot of headway made in regard to reversing climate change or doing anything to try to protect normal people or regular people from it, because there are corporations that are getting ready for it. Some of these same corporations, fossil fuel corporations that are denying climate change exist. Yeah. They are making changes because
lobbying the government for seawalls and all that. Yeah,
exactly. So I think there's two reasons why capitalism cannot solve this crisis. Because one, they have no incentive to really.
Mm-hmm.
And two, they have no monetary incentive, and they really don't have a moral incentive, because capitalism by its nature is an accelerationist kind of situation.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's supposed to, I guess, I don't know what word to use. I would say it
compounds itself because the consequences are so far, they're just far enough in the future to not really be taken into consideration by the shareholders. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, because there's, like you said, their shareholders are going to definitely lose a lot of their investments. And I do believe that if we invest in something more sustainable, by default, there's going to be less money in it for wealthy people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Part of the other issue I have with climate change is that I really appreciate how again, obstinate the left has become on the issue, just given the reports that have come out recently. But some of the rhetoric I really don't appreciate, like when people say the world is going to end and we're not going to have hope. That's not we need to properly identify the issue. It's not. You got everyone knows this intuitively, but people who are skeptical, even if they should know better, like the scientists I work with, they hear that and they think, oh, that's bullshit. Mm-hmm. So, what we really need to be talking about is, if insects and phytoplankton if their populations dip, then how the hell are we going to produce enough food at the current acceleration of biotech, right? We're going to have to create massive innovations in agriculture in order to keep up with that, and we're not. This at the end, this is ultimately a very unsustainable type of platform, and this is mostly what keeps me up at night and drinking.
Damn. And drinking, huh? I think people...
I love you too much to bullshit you. How about that?
I think people, try to sell the situation as, the world's going to end, because I guess that's the extreme, Our way of life could definitely end. So if nothing is done to like fix the problems at that point, then I don't know. I mean, I guess you could sell it as that. Like you said, it's not really the scientific outlook, but there are going to be. I mean, if we don't do anything, there's definitely going to be some, horrible things that occur, and they're already occurring right now.
Well, what do you think about it? Do you think that like the kind of the world's gonna end, the sky is on fire? I mean, not being crazy about it, but do you think like being alarmist is the right thing to do? Like as lay people, is that like an effective argument, or do you think that we should kind of like default to more, like I don't know, facts and whatever?
Well, you have to. You know what? I don't know if I have a definitive answer to that, because even the argument that you're talking about right now, the alarmist one, the world is going to end, the world's going to be on fire, the sky's going to come crashing down, we're not going to have a planet anymore. Even that narrative isn't swaying people, So even if you pulled it back a little bit to, like you said, like a scientific argument where there are going to be devastating things that happen, but there may be things that we can do to, I guess, sustain ourselves. If that's the reality, then how is that going to sway people?
Well, I think, unfortunately, science doesn't sell. And usually people are influenced.
Oh, yes. No, it doesn't.
Science doesn't sell, and usually people are influenced and galvanized by kind of short bits of information, usually entertaining bits of information.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
emotion generally, not really like facts.
True. Yeah. So I think that's that's the hardest part to trying to convince one side that climate change is real, is because there's a lot of I want to say like data that they have to research, but I don't think that they'll do any kind of work or any kind of research to, I guess, even on like a minimal level, to find out whether this research is valid. I just don't think people want to do the work or just want to do the research or want to look into it at all. I think that's the problem.
It's hard. It's difficult. I mean, not even just the basic science of it is hard enough to know as is, but you're right. There's the textbook I'm reading has an entire chapter debunking, bullshit arguments that denialists will say. And it's like, it's great that you compile these rebuttals, but like how useful is it? I mean, not that I'm advocating, just pretend that the arguments don't exist. Just keep on pushing forward. I mean, you have to do dialogue with these people, but what do you do if they? I mean, you can debunk all their bullshit. You can come at them with cloud physics, but like that's not going to help.
See, and I think I lectured this earlier in the program too, talking about demagogues. We don't do anything about demagogues. I mean, there's a limit to the progress that you can make in any area. Demagogues are able to push back against climate change and say, hey, it's not that bad. Nothing's going to happen. As long as they're able to actually convince people, then, I mean, people are going to treat this as not actually a threat, and we don't have to actually do anything about it. So, I don't know. You say you stay up late and drink.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you stay up late and drink and try to find some, I guess, way forward. I don't know what it is.
I guess one of the last things I want to bring up, or probably the last thing I want to bring up, is in my research, one of the things that I found is that given the volatility of weather patterns over in the east and generally how many shoreline cities there are in the east, like 1 in 5 people that'll be potentially affected by climate change. In terms of, you might have to relocate because your shit is underwater now. They live in Asia. So what do you? I mean, should we sell it to the white people like, oh hey, what do you think is going to happen when like millions of Asians start washing up on the shores? I mean, I think that you might be able to sell that to the Ku Klux country, but I don't like. That's my best like Hail Mary last attempt to reason with these people.
There are several nationalists here, and we are talking about the southern border and amnesty and citizenship and all that, and hey, it's extreme, but hey, it might work, man. I have no idea, man. That might be the last ditch effort, like you said, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate the dialogue. Pac-Man wouldn't talk very long with me. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Pac-Man dig at Pac-Man.
I had to call him out.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you calling in.
Bye. Yeah, take care.
All right, you too. All right, let's go to 980. You're on the air live with LTMB.
What's up, man? This is Will from North Carolina.
What's
How y'all
up,
doing?
Will?
How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. I had something I wanted to talk about, but since climate change got brought up, the funny thing is I've thought about talking about climate change before, and I've tried to stay away from it. And I'll explain why, but if I may, first, fuck Pac-Man. But secondly, on the thing about climate change, it's a weird one. Climate change is a weird one. The thing about climate change is, yeah, we're going to have problems if we don't do something, and they will be soon, and we should be doing something about it. There is a lot of alarmism with climate change that is a little disingenuous, and as far as a lot of like top scientists who are telling us that we have a big problem, they are correct. But they also see that the problem is our socioeconomics. They're trying to see that change because we're not going to be able to deal with problems like climate change or even new technology that's coming about without making some significant changes that would allow us to deal with something like climate change. So, I mean, I know that might sound a little confusing. Let me try to clear that up. What I'm saying is, climate change is a problem, definitely. It gets blown out of proportion a little bit, or there's a little bit of fault purposely, because I think people who really understand it know that it's a little bit of a foggy issue for them too. And they often do promote alarmism, but it's for a little bit of different reason. But that's not to say that climate change isn't very, very good. A very big reason in itself. And I think, I think some people see going at climate change to make certain changes, especially going away from fossil fuels, would require a big economic change. I mean, it would have to change the economic power structure globally to some degree.
Okay.
So,
okay, what like
I think
and it would. Are you saying it'd be a change for the good, or it wouldn't be a change for?
It'd definitely be a change for the good. Yeah. It'd definitely be a change for the good, definitely. So that's why I never really wanted to say that this alarmism, it really does deserve to be called alarmism oftentimes, because it's fine with me. I mean, I'm normally the one to say, let's just keep it the facts, and I'm still going to say that, but it's not to the point where I haven't spoken out against some of the alarmism with climate change. And it really is a problem. Overstated sometimes, yeah. But I think a lot of people who are overstating it are doing so understanding that we need that political and economic change that will be brought about if we were to do away with fossil fuels. And we have the technology to do it. So, I mean, it's really stupid that we're letting our future go bad for the sake of economic structure that's completely ridiculous and out of date.
Well, look,
like
Mike was saying earlier, science isn't sexy. Science can be boring, and if you actually deal with the facts and what could be expected, then I don't know if that's going to move the needle. So I understand the alarmism. So I don't know. I mean, nothing seems to be moving the needle anyway. So
I know, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we need to do something, and we have that Green New Deal resolution that's in Congress that I believe Congress is going to soon vote on. We'll see where Democrats stand on it. We know where Republicans stand on it. Something needs to be done. We just don't know how to get to that, something like the actual action of it. So.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons, yes, that definitely. I mean, it just has to be done, and it has to be done soon, or we're going to face even more severe consequences than we are paying because we haven't done it 20 years ago.
Right.
So
totally agree, man. All right, well, we're gonna have to cut this short. We got like 3 other callers, and we only have about 10 minutes left, so we're gonna try to get them in. But we appreciate you calling in, man.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
All right, you too. All right, I think 203 was next. 203, you're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for taking my call.
No problem, man. Who's this?
Yeah, my name is Ryan Burns. I live in Kingman, Arizona. Just moved out here. Yeah, so I've been. I just recently found your show. I've been trying to find like information sources that weren't like really painful to absorb. Like, you know, basically I'm trying to figure out how to approach being informed in this like climate of disinformation.
Right.
I pretty much disengaged from like most forms of media once Trump was elected. You know, a little bit for just like self-preservation, like, you know, trying to figure out how to be a brown person in this country, and with like all this like craziness happening, and just like this general hostility happening. But I don't know, I'm calling in to ask you guys, like, what's your strategy for sort of like picking out what are you going to like absorb, or what are you going to read or watch? Like, I see what they're doing to Ilhan, I see what they're doing to Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard, and
you just
like,
I believe, I mean, like the easiest thing is to just access information, you know, just access information, and don't just access a little bit of it. If you have a particular source that you go to, like, actually get I get a sense of what they are, not just based on like maybe one segment or one article, but get a long view of like what they espouse, because a lot of people that we agree with, like, we don't really want to have anything to do with. Like, we might agree with them on certain subjects, but in the long run, we think they're probably bad for the conversation.
I think this is I'm glad you brought this up, because this is a difficult conversation, because I think we all are seeking some sort of like objective source to watch, and understand that sometimes we may seek out venues that only confirm our own bias and don't cause us to grow any. So I understand that.
Right.
I think it's not just about the source. It's about methodology. It's about the methodology that they use to come to their conclusion. So it's not about a particular source. The reason why, let's say, we don't pay attention to anybody on Fox is because the methodology that they use is faulty. The information that they kind of present is faulty. So it's all about like checking against whatever they're presenting to you. So I can't say, hey, watch this. This guy's saying like all the truthful stuff. Go to this source. This guy's saying all the truthful stuff. It's still directing you in a very inorganic way. So to me, it's all about methodology, or how people present their arguments, whether they're like utilizing, I don't know, fallacies to present their arguments, whether they're like using rhetorical tricks or rhetorical arguments that are deceptive. That's the thing you watch out for. So it's not like you check every specific argument. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's more about like you're checking the methodology of the arguments that people make.
Make sure they have a good track record. You know, like, like I said, just don't input just a little bit of information. Make sure that wherever you're getting your information from, you get a feeling that you can trust it. And you can only do that if you actually go back into their history, maybe see some other stuff that they have covered. And if you like it, it's a good chance that you can trust it. All right, Ryan. Well, we appreciate you calling in. I don't believe you called in before, but we do appreciate you calling in tonight. Hope you call in again.
Thanks, man. Will do. Bye now.
All right. Next caller is from the 267 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Good, man. Who's on the line with
Philip
us?
from Philly.
Will?
Oh, yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. I had to take it off speakerphone. I was charging my phone.
You said Will from Philly?
I'm from Philip from Philly.
Philip.
Oh, Philip from Philly. I thought
right.
he said Will.
Yeah.
I was about to say, were you from West
Oh,
Philly?
no. I am from, I do live in West Philly like Will Smith.
Born and raised.
I did want to, I don't know if y'all touched on this because I was getting on the show maybe 5 minutes ago. But I did want to touch on Kamala a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if y'all have been talking about her, so I don't want to beat the dead horse if you already have been.
Not on this show.
Yeah. Go ahead, man. You might have something to add, bro.
So I had two things. Well, I had a question, but my first thing was, I think I super chatted you guys maybe a week ago about George Gage, or it may have been earlier this week. I can't remember. But that's the guy that's currently in prison, who's been in there since 1999.
Oh,
that's the guy that Kamala, she upheld a wrongful conviction in 2015 when she was the state attorney general. So that was her last year, second to last year as attorney general. Okay. So your viewers, before I get to my question, if they want to look up a great summary of the case from 1999 up to now, they can Google George Gage, and his last name is Gage. And the author is Andrew Cohen, Cohen. Mm-hmm. And the website that should pop up, it's the marshallproject.org. Right. And I think they have all these statistics about people who may be innocent, people who are on death row. So I mean, if anybody's interested in that type of stuff, or even the legal stuff or anything, just criminal justice, that's probably a great website. It even has a real-time timer. And so if someone's on death row and they're going to die in the next 2 weeks, it would literally have a real-time clock.
All right, well, Philip, let's get to your question because we only got a little
bit
of time
left. I'm sorry. My question was, do you think it's too much to, if Kamala won the primary, do you think it would be unreasonable to not vote or vote for a third party, hypothetically, if there was a Jill Stein type of person running? Do you think it would be unreasonable for someone to not vote for Kamala based on the fact that she has kept, actually more than one innocent person in prison, but one is still there? I mean, obviously there's other stuff she did on top of that. But do you think it's unreasonable for someone to not vote for her based on that, especially if they are a person who has either personally been done wrong by the criminal justice system, or may have a loved one who was falsely imprisoned or something like that? Do you think that's unreasonable? Because a lot of people, and this is Democrats I'm talking about, a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that I wouldn't vote for her based on that and other things. But I'm thinking, as much as these Democrats say they're for criminal justice reform and, they're socially progressive and this and that, it seems that, that they're the crazy ones. And I'm not saying that everybody has to agree with me, but they don't even consider it. They look at me like, it's not one of the top, issues that we deal with. And I do want to mention I have been, in jail before, not over anything crazy, just it had to do with weed actually. But yeah.
Well, yeah. All right. So
that's the question now.
All right. So first let me thank you for calling in. I think you're gonna get cut off in just a few seconds because we only got a few seconds left. But we're gonna answer your question. But yeah, you are about to get cut off. And for the last caller, I'm sorry that we didn't get to you. 716 area code. We hope that you do join us for the next program that's on Tuesday next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll definitely try to get you on then. But for Philip's question about Kamala, is it unreasonable to vote for her, possibly voting for a third-party candidate if she does get the Democratic nomination? Obviously, it's going to be about who that third-party candidate is. Look, in 2016, we made it very well known that we voted for Jill Stein. We pushed Jill Stein. We had a goal in mind, of course. We didn't really believe that she had a very good chance of actually winning the election. We knew that that was not going to be the case. She didn't have that much support. She didn't have that much visibility. But we did want to get her to get the Green Party to 5% of the vote total so that certain things could happen. Ballot access, matching federal funds, things like that. We thought that would be a, somewhat of an upgrade for the Green Party. And at some point, we will actually get to the point where there are more than just these two parties. We would actually get to a point where it might be more like a parliamentary system. That didn't happen. So here we are. We're coming to 2020. For me personally, I can't see myself voting for a third-party candidate. I'm not really supportive of Kamala Harris at all. We've talked about certain criticism that we have of her. Yes, she does sound like a progressive in certain issues. If you believe her, I don't know if she's being genuine or not. I have my reasons to suspect that she's not. But if she does come away with the Democratic nomination, I think at this point, and here we're just in February of 2019 right now. At this point, I would say that I would vote for her. I don't suspect that I would have any reason to vote for a third-party candidate because I don't know what my goal would be. I don't think the third party. I don't think a Green Party. I don't think they're going to get 5% of the vote total. I don't see that happening. If it didn't happen in 2016, I don't see it happening in 2020. So I would have to have some type of reason to not cast my vote for the Democratic nominee. And right now, that has not emerged.
Right. So if the energy didn't amass in a way that pushed enough people to vote for a third party in 2016, when there was so much tension about who was running, Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, if people were not guided to a third party this year, what would make them kind of proceed into supporting a third party this year? Do you see what I'm saying? So you're coming from the perspective of what's the consequence? So you want your vote to have some sort of consequence. If not for a victory, at least it could be for maybe federal funding. And that was the goal in 2016. And we thought that was the most apt time for that to occur. I think many people would agree with that based on the climate at the time.
Right.
So that same climate is not there.
Yeah.
And it seems as if Bernie is the favorite. We don't know what the DNC is going to do. We don't know what Kamala Harris is going to do. And there's a possibility that she might win. But if she does win, what would be the consequence of voting for a third party? Do we think more people would be, prompted to vote third party this time around than last time?
Well,
you see what I'm saying? That's the question.
He's coming from a place where he feels. I mean, like this is a personal feeling for him. Like he feels like this is like Kamala. He has like some type of criticism where it's like, man, this is way too far. Like I have personal feelings about her, personal criticisms of her. He cited that case with George. I think it's George Gage. Yeah, George Gage. I understand. I understand that you feel very against Kamala Harris. I think she has done enough where people could have that kind of stance where it's like, man, Kamala Harris? No, sorry, no way. But I guess to that, I would kind of just go back to what I said earlier too about what's the other option? Like, what would be the other option? We do want to vote with integrity. You do want to vote for somebody that you believe in. But when it does come to the general, what is, like, whatever you do, what effect is it going to have? If it has some type of positive effect, not just that I believe in this person and, it's not going to do anything. I think that's, I think somebody would not be looking far enough, because I don't think the candidates that are running, I don't know if they are the best candidates in the entire world. You know what I'm saying? They're just the people that are running. You understand? Like we all could back somebody that maybe has nothing to do with politics, that's never been elected to any position before. but you know that person, you've heard that person speak, you know that person has good ideas, you know that person is a good leader, you know that person is honest and has some integrity to him. You think that person would be a phenomenal candidate, somebody that would definitely lead the country into a prosperous time, be an advocate for the people. But you know, if that person, I mean, if you don't really think that that vote is going to go anywhere, I don't know. I mean, like I said, that's a personal choice that you would have to make. For me, I can just say that in 2020, I'm interested in voting for somebody that I believe will advance the country forward in the direction that I personally believe that it should go in. But if that's not the case, where that candidate is somebody that I totally believe in, I am going to take a look at the landscape. Is that candidate better than Donald Trump? That's definitely going to be a factor. I don't want Donald Trump to be reelected. We've lived through we're going to live through 4 years of his presidency. It's assumed, at least. The Mueller report hasn't come out. You know.
Yeah,
still,
we don't know what's going to come out of
We
that.
don't know what's going to come out. But still, 4 years of Donald Trump, I think I've seen enough to make the case that I would like to see a Democratic president. And at this point, I have my favorites. Like I said, I'm back in Bernie. I'm back in Marianne Williamson. Those are my two front runners for me personally. But the other candidates, even if I would go so far as to say Amy Klobuchar, I would even go so far, and Amy Klobuchar is no progressive. She doesn't even look like a progressive. She doesn't talk like a progressive. She says it just like it is. She is a centrist. I don't think she says she's a centrist, but you know she's a centrist. You know she's a moderate, right? But I think she'll be better than Donald Trump.
Probably.
So it's a painful, like, if those are your options, that's gonna be a painful decision. I just can't see making the same decision that I made in 2016 because I don't see a goal there. I don't see a goal that can be achieved by voting third party in 2020. I don't see it at this point. Again, this is only February 2019. If that changes, I'll definitely say it. But as of right now, I don't see it.
Yeah, so I can't hate on, Philip for making the reasonable choice based on his experience. So, because we're not about that, we're not about, I guess trying to, like, force people to kind of, like, view it the way we do and perceive, I guess, the situation the way we perceive it. So, yeah. I mean, I like the way Philip explained it. It seemed very legitimate.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I'm saying? The way you explained it. So I really can't hate on that. You know what I'm saying? So I understand where he's coming from. But again, there's a goal in mind.
Yeah.
There's a goal in mind.
The good thing, though, is that we are very early on. This is just February 2019. And I believe there are some good candidates for president within the Democratic Party. So now would be the time to elevate their platforms, elevate their stand-ins, make sure that they are getting the coverage that they should be getting, donate to their campaigns. There is I guess there is a requirement, at least there's an initial requirement. We don't know if there's going to be any further requirements, but the initial requirement to appear in the debates, I believe you have to have 65,000 different donors from at least 20 states.
Right.
So if you do believe in one of these candidates that are not getting as much attention as a Kamala Harris or a Cory Booker or Elizabeth Warren, definitely donate to their platform, and instruct others to do the same. Try to stretch their message out. We've been covering Marianne Williamson. We've done it multiple times now because I do believe in her. I do believe in her message. I believe in her a person. I believe in her qualities and her integrity. I believe in her platform. So that's what we're trying to do. Not picking favorites at this point. Like I said, I have love for Bernie Sanders. I have love for Marianne Williamson. And we'll see how it goes. Again, this is just very early on. But if you do have a candidate that you would like to see get the nomination instead of Kamala Harris, try to stretch that message out, talk to your family, talk to your friends, post on social media. We've done many videos. If the candidate you would like to see is Marianne Williamson, we've done videos on her. Share those videos. Just share information so more people can access it. That's like I said, it's good that we're just at the beginning. So maybe we won't have to deal with a Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris. To the whole I guess the caller that was calling in, that was definitely espousing some anti-Semitism. It's not, I could understand where maybe people would be offended if we, let that call go on too much. But when people say some busted stuff, some racist stuff, even some, just whatever that we disagree with, we will try to, I guess, chime in and be like, no, that's wrong, So, I like I said, I can definitely understand if somebody was offended by that, or if anybody was offended by that. But like I said, it wasn't that we were believing any of that nonsense or anything like that. We just wanted to, I guess, kind of push back on it. But yeah, that guy is obviously anti-Semitic, so I don't believe he'll be coming back. I don't believe he'll.
He probably won't.
Yeah, I don't believe so. Yeah, but let me read out some. Like I said, we do have some new patrons on Patreon.com. That's Pascal Filth. Pascal Filth. Filth is Filfe. Filth. Filth, not filth. Filth. Pascal Filth. I don't know what that is.
Wow.
But thank you very much, Pascal. We also have Maria Estefania Ribeiro de Souza. We have Candle Surgeon. And I believe, Candle Surgeon. And we might have seen him in the chat section. I want to say like that profile image I saw, but I'm not sure. But I believe he even sent us a message. But I didn't have time to look at it.
Oh, thanks, Trev, for changing your name. Now we can pronounce it. That was the TRV VRSL something. So it's Trev, I think.
Where?
So it's the one. Remember the one we?
Yeah, I remember
we
the
had
profile
a hard
name.
time pronouncing it. It was like
Where is it at now?
TRSVL. It's he changed his screen name or his username to Trev. Right
Okay,
there,
Trev
Trev
B5.
B5. So appreciate that, man.
We can read that now.
But I do think we can. Maybe I can do a better job at kind of directing Ryan a little better, because we didn't really name anybody that we listen to, and I think I never want to name people I listen to or like media outlets I pay attention to, because I don't want to kind of. I don't know. I just don't want to always try to get people in my frame of mind. You know what I'm saying? I just want people to feel it out organically. But I'm trying to I pay attention to so many voices, and I pay attention to so many different outlets. You know what I'm saying? I do watch Michael Brooks. A lot of people don't like him. I understand why, but I think it's whack if you don't. You just take him for what he is. I do watch, what's the dude at Humanist Report?
Yeah, Mike.
Mike at Humanist Report. I do a little bit of Kyle Kulinski too. He has some blind spots, but I do him for the most part. He's straight. You ever heard of Chapo Trap House? I do them. I try to read articles in The Intercept, Truth Dig, Common Dreams, Roots Action. It's a good website. I don't know, man. I even try to tune into non-American sources, non-United States sources, especially for economic stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all about broadening who you listen to. That kind of gives you a better perspective. So broadening who you listen to, just kind of spreading that net wide, and then doing more reading. It's almost like by doing that, you can check everything against, you know what to look up and you know what to research based on how far you cast your net.
But
You know
see,
what I'm saying?
this is all subjective though. because anybody can lead you astray.
Yeah.
Even somebody that you've been watching for a while, and then come to find out, oh snap, what happened here? Like something that they said or something that they wrote, just like, man, this came out of left field here. So don't ever go into it with like, man, yeah, even us, I like to think we tell the truth. We stick to the facts. We're objective. Doesn't matter who you are, what organization you work for. We hold everybody's feet to the fire. So I think we have that track record. But even us, look, it's possible. At least it's possible we might say something stupid or something that's wrong. At least it's possible. Like we don't ever want to get into a place where there's unconditional support for us or anybody else. So there's a lot of people that I listen to that I don't have unconditional support for. A lot of people withdrew their support from TYT, the Young Turks, and Cenk Uygur, Anna. Withdrew their support for the whole organization. They feel like they're the establishment now, this and that. I mean, they do some good reporting. Not on some issues, and like we said, we talked about Cenk today and how he was kind of like covering. You can kind of say it was kind of like covering for Tucker Carlson. He was kind of trying to make excuses for him a little bit. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but still, I don't agree with it. But there's a lot of his reporting that I absolutely agree with. So I don't toss him out into the garbage. I don't toss TYT out into the garbage. There's some stuff I like reading The Root. There's some stuff I read on The Root I'm like, man, that's like put that to a side. I don't believe in that.
Yeah,
but there's some reporting that I'm like, damn, okay, I'm using this as a source right here.
So basically, you're just I talked about methodology. You're talking about like not approaching things with this kind of unconditional mindset.
Right. I guess if you stay there, if you stay in the objective arena,
I think you'll be all right.
You'll be okay, man. Because it really won't matter where you get your news from. Because if something rubs you the wrong way, you're gonna feel it instantaneously. You can be like, hold on, hold on, let me check that somewhere else.
Especially if you have cast your net wide and you hear different things from different places, sources that supposedly have the same agenda.
Yeah.
Like I know one I think one reliable news network that I watched that I don't remember ever seeing them put some false stuff out. It's the Real News Network. You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
I watch them a lot.
Right. But even your corporate media outlets, CNN, MSNBC, like anybody that is in independent media, they're getting their news from these corporate media outlets, the New York Times, Washington Post, wherever, Vox, HuffPost. They're getting the news from these outlets. I think we've always stated that, like, when it comes to reporting the news, everybody has to get their news from the same places, those corporate media outlets, because they have the access, they have the far reach. The problem arises when they get into the analysis. That's always where the problem comes in. When we've seen debates, we've seen after the State of the Union address, when they're actually talking about their feelings about what they just witnessed, what they just heard, that's where you get into the troubling areas, because then they're trying to sell you something. A lot of times they're trying to sell you something there. So if you're listening to commentary that is about personal feelings or about just personal opinion, how they're looking at it, you might want to go somewhere where I guess you feel they have a history of laying it down as it is. Not somewhere like CNN or something like that, because they don't really have that track record.
No, they don't. And I don't really think they have the time. They don't have the time to delve into, to dive deep into a lot of issues. That's why it's important to cast your net wide and kind of like maybe focus your attention on people who like specialize in a certain area.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe you might want to kind of seek out a lot of maybe some social justice experts, criminal justice experts, or economic experts, or maybe anti-racist experts. I mean, that ties into social justice, but there's so many different pathways you can go down to kind of dive deep in each issue. And I think maybe if you just cast your net wide and try to, diversify your media exposure, then yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have for tonight. Like I said, the next episode will be on Tuesday, and that will be what, the 26th. So just at the end of Black History Month. Just at the end.
Just at the end, bro.
Yeah,
now, how many calls did we have, man? Like,
yeah, we had a few.
we have Ryan.
We had Ryan, Tony, Court, Philip. We also had, I don't know if we got his name, Kentucky from God Country.
Something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, we appreciate you all. And again, we didn't get to that last caller. I believe it was from the 714 area code, I believe.
Nah, that was something too.
No, it was 7.
It
was 7. It was 7 something. But yeah, we apologize for not getting to you. Seemed like all the calls came towards
at the
the
last
end.
minute, yeah.
And Court, when we were talking with Court for a while because nobody was really calling in. But then they started flooding in towards the end. So
came in all at the same time.
Yeah. So if you do want to be heard, if you do have a question for us or a comment, something you would like to state, some maybe issue that we have addressed or not addressed, be sure to just call in early. It's not particularly a set time that we go to calls. It's always a little bit different, but it's usually around the 8:30 to 8:45 mark, something like that. That's when we try to get to the calls. Tonight it was a little bit early. I think it was about 8:30, 8:35. So yeah, definitely if you want to, we would love to hear from everybody. I know that may not always be possible. We do have a limited time to take the calls.
We'll try to do a better job at kind of like chopping it up a little bit better.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To give more people an opportunity because as of late, or the last couple of shows, there's been an influx of people watching, so we might have to kind of limit how much time we spend on each call. We'll just do a better job on that.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Definitely want to give a shout out to all of our patrons on patreon.com and all of our new patrons as well. If you would like to make a contribution to our Patreon account, the account is at /LTMB, patreon.com /LTMB. We would definitely appreciate it. We appreciate all the assistance that we get each and every month. We know that it's not easy. For a lot of people, it's not easy to actually give your money, your hard-earned money, to anybody. You have to spend that on food and gas and just whatever else. So definitely we appreciate all the money that you do give to us, whether it's $1 or whatever. And we do have some people that contributed to our show in the super chat. So that's Patrick Scarpati. Patrick Scarpati. We got the knowledge last show. Mike was right.
All right.
But yeah, he said Bernie Sanders kicking the new knowledge. No, knowledge.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. We talking about that dude. Also, straight up. Never seen it spelled like that before. Straight up. He said, I love the show. Please listen to my Bernie Sanders rap anthem on my channel. Okay, straight up.
All right, we're going to do that.
Yeah. I remember back in 2016.
We had what? Ultimate Rage?
Ultimate Rage, man.
Yeah, we got to get in contact.
He had some fire back then.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if I haven't talked to him in a while, but he used to make some good music, and it was political music, and it was fire, man. So yeah, we have to get up with him. Maybe he got something new for 2020, man. But yeah, we'll check out your channel. Listen to see what you got, straight up. But for everybody else, have a good night. Have a good weekend. We don't know what's popping off this weekend. Never do. But obviously something always happens on Friday. It never fails. Something always happens on Friday, and we're left to wait a few days to discuss it on Tuesday. But we'll be here just as always. So everybody take care. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday. All right. Peace out.